Shit, when are we not?
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. The chat knows. The chat knows. They know the gimmick by
Oh,
now.
are we live?
Yeah,
They know the routine.
Oh
They know
shit!
the
I should have
routine.
shared
No,
the
we
link.
do.
What's the link? I'm gonna share it.
You can just share the one I sent you.
No.
In the, oh no, that's the one to join. Just hold on, I'll send you the link. Wait a minute.
It's on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, hold on. I'll just send it to
I
you.
can find it. Sorry, this is how we're starting. I apologize, people. I'm unprofessional.
It's gonna be a good show though.
We always start like this, so.
Hey, we always late regardless.
Live
And
right
then
here, right?
shout out to the chat. Y'all loyal. Every time I'm in here, y'all live.
I got it.
Shout out to
I'm
the
gonna
chat.
share it to my.
No, I was here 4:50 p.m. All these people were late, not me. Just saying, I was here early.
Blame
I
my
was only
job's
late because I
relief.
couldn't get the link up and then my sound wouldn't work. I had to switch my iPad.
All right, chat. Welcome back to the pod. Appreciate you guys for coming through as always. Today, today for the people in the chat, we are going to be strictly talking old school 90s WWE, WCW, maybe some ECW as well, depending on people's knowledge and ball about ECW, but strictly all things related from the past and the 90s. We're going to give some of our takes, some of our opinions, some things that we like, didn't like, some of the great things, some of the bad things. So if you're familiar with that, feel free to chat along in the chat. If you're not familiar, then we can put you on ball today, put you on game about some things in that area, maybe give you some recommendations of things you can go back and check out. So shout out to everybody else on the pod. Jade, who probably will be out for a little bit. He just lost his mom. So shout out to Jade, man. Condolences to his family.
Condolences.
Shout out to Lewis, G, Nate. All those guys are busy today as well. So, eventually we'll have everybody else back on the pod whenever everybody else is, able to do so. But we have some guests today. I'll introduce themselves. You guys can plug in your socials before we start as well. To everybody where they can follow you, check out your content. Everybody's been on here before, but some people haven't been on here in a while. So I'll let Justin go first, and then Alan, you can go after him, and then Sebastian, you can. Go after Alan, and then we'll dive into these conversations.
I am Justin, the Wrestling Classic. You can follow me on the Wrestling Classic. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm just here doing some extra work. Malik let me come through do some extra work. Got an interview with Dirty Dom dropping tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to hear from Dirty Dom. Bunch of different shows, TFC show, just yapping. Got a vlog dropping from SummerSlam weekend. I got to work with On Location and do that whole experience. So if you guys have been ever interested in that, you can see what that whole experience is like. But yeah, the Wrestling Classic on Instagram, PWC Worldwide on Twitter, Wrestling Classic on YouTube. I think Wrestling Classic on TikTok. Just subscribe, follow, like, and engage. I'd be very thankful and grateful for that.
Lit.
Back by popular demand, because I know y'all love me in that chat. Now I'm just playing. But anyway, Petty Endo 89, 32-year wrestling fan. Old school is typically my forte. Don't post as much on TikTok anymore, but if you want to follow, look at some of my old videos. Same as what's in over here, Petty Endo 89. And I'm just excited to dive into these 90s topics. I usually bring them into other conversations. So for once, this is my type of conversation, and I'm just happy to rock it with everybody. What's up, chat?
I just learned right now I can read the chat on the side here. This is great. Okay. Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Oh, okay. What's up, y'all? I've been here before. I was on the episode 77. My name is James Weezer, aka or just James, whatever you want to call it. My YouTube is James Weezer Official, and there I mostly make movie and hip hop content. I haven't uploaded in a while, and on my IG is James_Weezer24. Wrestling content is coming to my channel soon, so look out for that.
All right, fellas. So we're gonna dive a lot into the conversation of the 90s, the good and bad, because there's some flexible years, there's some terrible years, and within the mix of everything. So before we dive into that, though, I do want to ask a question for everybody that's going to answer individually with their own personal answers. If you had to give your top 5 most important wrestlers of the 1990s, who would be on that list? Doesn't have to be in any particular order, just the 5 wrestlers that you feel, whether it be WWE, WCW, ECW, that you feel were the most important wrestlers of the 1990s. So Mo, I'll let Mo go first, and then we'll rotate.
Shit. I'm trying to think of my 5th spot right now. Since you asked me the question earlier, I've been struggling with it, but shit, man. Yeah, I'll just do it anyway. I'll probably go Austin for sure. I'd go Brett, Sean. I'm not. I can't. I'm gonna do the original 3 NWO as one unit. I can't separate it. They started a whole boom period. Now that 5th spot can go to a lot of people. You can go Taker. You can go fucking. You can go a lot of people. I might just go Rock. That might be the easy answer, but yeah.
Okay. Sebastian, what about you?
Me, yeah. My 5 is pretty similar. I have Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. I have Brett, and I have Austin. They're industry changing, all 5. So
Valid names. Alan.
I've got Taker, Sting, the original 3 of the NWO, Austin, Brett.
Those are good names. Those are good names. Justin, what about you?
I don't know.
I had it a little bit different because I didn't know we could band people together. But if we can put the original 3 of the NWO together, I would put them together. So because it was going to be Hogan and Hall, separate, and I almost kept Nash off. But if I could put the 3 of them together, I'll put the 3 of them together. So Hogan, Hall, Nash together. Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously, because that's what changed the tides. Bret Hart, because I think he held the early 90s and planted the seeds for the Attitude Era prior to DX or anything else. Sting, because every great villain needs a baby face, and for the NWO is Sting.
facts.
Yep.
And now that I have an open 5th, I'm gonna say, and I'm saying it from like a wrestler standpoint of like what feud like killed the late 90s. Mr. McMahon is probably number 5. That screw job forward 97, 98, 99. Like Austin, like once again, no great baby face without a great villain.
Mm-hmm.
Austin popped off more because everyone was like F Vince.
Yeah.
Good point. Really good
So
point.
By the way, take Rock off my list. Put Sting in there. Take Rock off my list.
Wait, yeah, he's way over Sting. Way more.
So my list is kind of similar a little bit. I have Bret Hart. I feel like he was the constant for WWE for a while. Even through the bad eras of WWE, whenever they put the championship back on Bret, the main event scene was good, when he was involved in it. I would say, of course, the NWO, all 3 of them just revolutionized the entire industry. Stone Cold Steve Austin, biggest draw the company's ever had, which helped uplift them. Sting would have to be on there as well. Many people will probably say he was the face of WCW, and also kind of the constant. And my last spot, I'm gonna be a different answer. I'm gonna put Goldberg in there. I feel like Goldberg, when WCW was kind of deteriorating, he was the guy that kind of helped make WCW popular again, like that 98 era when he went on that run of the streak and everything. And then, the whole Attitude Era really started to take off whenever they presented Goldberg on TV. He was somebody who was very limited, but was able to get so popular and so over and do the bare minimum by being their biggest star, just squashing people in the ring. You know what I mean? And just having a presentation that was like different from everybody else. I feel like there are certain superstars in wrestling that have certain vibes to them. Like whenever their music hits, you get the ultimate feel of, oh shit, like here comes that person, like business is about to pick up, or he about to kick somebody's ass type feel. I think Goldberg during that time for about, whenever the whole time the streak was alive, was kind of one of the vocal points of WCW before it officially really, died, after he had lost and everything. I think he was the guy that was really trying to help uplift them again after, they were falling down, during that time frame. So everybody else had good answers though. There's a lot of people in the 90s that, stood out during that time frame. You look back, of course, Rock, Mick Foley, of course, he was ECW. You look at Raven and Tommy Dreamer and, RVD and
I was about to say nobody said anyone from ECW, so kind of
I wanted to put Raven
reading the room 5. A little bit.
I never watched ECW.
Favorite.
So I didn't find out about it.
I know some ball, but
properly. Yeah, like I said,
ECW had a lot of good stuff. They had a lot of good stuff.
My earliest memories is ECW invading WWF in 96, 97. Those were Raws. And then ECW guys showing up in WCW in the later 99, 2000. Otherwise, I just remember RVD, Sabu, the Dudleys.
Unfortunately, Shane Douglas also.
My Raven's the Flock. Like that's a Raven I remember.
That's
I remember as Johnny Polo.
Yeah.
Yo.
And then the next question I'm going to ask, and this, my answer is going to be a little bit different, but I just want to see what everybody else thinks. Who's somebody in the 90s that you think could have been utilized better?
Ooh,
Owen Hart.
definitely.
Why'd you say Owen?
He should have been world champion. He should, instead of fucking Bob Backlund or Diesel for a fucking year, waste the fucking time having garbage ass main events with Mabel at SummerSlam. It could have been Owen. It could have been fucking Owen. He was a better mic worker than his brother. He was just as good as a wrestler. He was a great villain. He just won King of the Ring. He could have held that title as a heel that Brett could chase for a year.
Oh, so many answers are going on my head. Okay.
Can I piggyback off of that?
Sure.
Because I agree with you. I feel like what happened with Owen is that Owen was a victim of two factors: bad booking and circumstance. The bad booking, everything this gentleman just said earlier, about putting the title on Bob Backlund, having Diesel for a year, but also because they kind of took him off because he cost his brother the title. So you can make the argument at that point he was the number one heel in the company by virtue of who Brett was. 1994, I think undisputedly is Brett's biggest year of his career, in my opinion, anyway. So then you kind of put him off to the side, you team him with Yokozuna, and then the incident that happens the day after the WrestleMania 11 where Sid powerbombed Shawn 3 times. When he comes back, he now becomes the biggest babyface instead of becoming the biggest heel like they were planning. So then that really kind of put Owen off to the side where he was just in the tag team division for the rest of the year. I think they traded off with the Smoking Guns a couple of times, but yeah, he was a victim of bad booking and just circumstance because Shawn was not supposed to be in that position. It just happened when he went after that 6-week vacation he took in the spring.
So is your answer going to be Owen too? Or you want to put a different answer?
I think I'll stick with Owen. A close second might be Mr. Perfect, just because like after the Intercontinental title, and I understand he was hurt, but like I felt like they never put him in the right view. They didn't really know what to do with him as a babyface. As a heel, fine. As a babyface, when they tried to make a run at it with how great of a talent he was, after the Shawn Michaels incident, it really just didn't click. So I'll probably say Perfect as well.
Valid. Justin, who do you have?
I was thinking about a bunch of like big names, but then it doesn't make sense because like part of me was gonna say Savage, but the end half of the 90s, Savage is great. I wish WWF used him better in the early half of the 90s. I feel like he should have wrestled Brett at WrestleMania 9 or something, But then I was like, okay, maybe Brett, but Brett had a hell of the 90s till the end. Then maybe Vader, but Vader had a hell of the 90s at the beginning till WWF. So I'm gonna pick someone totally obscure that people are gonna be like, they're not gonna get it, but I was a fan as a kid. And I thought, man, there was something there that I always liked him. And that was Brian Clark, who was Atom Bomb and then Wrath. There was one point that Wrath was so hot and he was like on a win streak, and then he just got squashed by Kevin Nash and stuff. And then like I loved Chronic. I thought Chronic was dope.
He was ass.
I don't know. I'm just
trash.
Because I can say Savage, I can say Vader, I can say Brett. I just had to pick someone obscure. At least I didn't say Mark Merrow. I was trying to think of someone obscure. Because there's big names. There's big names, right?
Hear my answer.
Because there's big names, right? Like I do think Savage could have been used better in the early 90s rather than a commentator. I do think Brett could have been used better in WCW. I do think Vader could have had a better run in WWF. But they all had a part of the 90s where they were good. Like Brett was the man. Savage DDP 97, 98. That's sick, right? Like
no, who do you have?
So Owen's my actual answer, but y'all touched on it, hit all the notes you got to. So I'm actually gonna say Randy Savage. There is no reason, knowing how thin that roster was getting in the early 90s, and you left him as a commentator and then cited he's too old while at the same time giving Bob Backlund a world title.
Yeah, Yeah,
Fuck out of here.
Jerry Lawler was having pay-per-view matches. Like,
Yeah.
Like, bro, come on, gang.
1993
I'm not
PWI Feud of the Year.
So what do you guys?
Savage had a banger with Warrior at 91. Was having good
91,
matches at 92
Flair
with Shawn
match,
Michaels, Flair. Went in 97, 98, had matches with DDP and all these guys that were great. You know what I mean? That's like they just missed. He knew the psychology of it on could have good matches.
to add on to that as well, like, all right, 1997, he had 3 pay-per-view matches with DDP, right? It was named the PWI, or like one of the feuds of the year, amazing feud,
Mhm.
right? He was originally not even booked to be at their big, after like having 3 of the best matches of the year, was not originally booked to be at WCW's
Starrcade.
biggest show at Starrcade. He
Yeah.
was not supposed to be on that show. The only reason he's in a random ass 6-man tag with a bunch of bums like Vincent and like well, Scott Norton's not a bum, but like compared to Randy Savage, you know.
Man.
But like the only reason he's in that match was because Conan got injured. Other than that, he was originally not even going to be on the show, and he just had the feud of the year. Like, it makes no sense.
I'll always have a Savage bias. He's my all-time favorite, but we all forgot to mention Larry Sabisco. That's all I'm saying.
Fuck you.
In the 90s?
Fuck you. You're a piece of
He has
shit.
a weird hate for Larry.
Larry Sabisco was great in the 90s. That feud with Scott Hall, just top notch.
That shit was ass. That shit was
You know
ass.
those pops
Larry
that Larry
Sabisco
Sabisco.
versus-
He would get up. He would get up in the commentary table and bow, and the crowd would be going crazy.
So what do you guys? We'll go start with Mo before I get my answer. What do you think? Do you think they were purposely trying to sabotage Randy Savage for some reason?
I don't
Hogan.
know what they're trying to do, but at the same time, it's like I said, the roster was thin as hell. You got people leaving because for different circumstances, wanting to go back to WCW, the whole steroid thing, whatever. You kept them around and had them feuding with Crush.
Good match.
Wasn't a bit.
To be fair.
Wasn't a bad feud, but I get you.
But like,
and to
Yeah, I
be
get it.
fair, like he wanted to do that. He like it's been noted. Lanny said he wanted that
Back
thing
to
with Shawn. He wanted that thing with Shawn for 2
Oh, okay,
WrestleManias,
okay.
11 and 12. I think 11, 10 and 11. He wanted to wrestle Shawn.
Yeah.
that would have been
And-
great.
And look, WrestleMania 11 sucked. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
the worst of all time, in my opinion. I would argue that I don't think it was so much that they intentionally sabotaged him. I think Vince just looked at it of we're in a youth movement because you've got young Sean, a young Brett, you just got Yoko,
Bob
you got all
Backlund.
the. I know, but this is before. But yeah, this is before Bob Backlund. But I hear you. So
King Kong
I think the
Bundy
way
was wrestling Undertaker on
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
I think the way he looked at it, not to defend Vince, I think he looked at it as Randy Savage is going to be the next Jesse Ventura. You know, he's going to be that guy we're going to put on pay-per-views. But the problem was, with that skew logic, Jesse Ventura had to retire because of an illness and an injury. Savage could still very much go. So it was a mismanaged bad decision. We know Vince is not, you know, we know Vince is used to doing those from time to time, even in that era. So it was just a bad decision.
In WCW though, that was definitely intentional. Hogan and Bischoff, they definitely
Oh,
fucked
yeah.
over. That was intentional.
Oh yeah, they screwed over a lot of people.
Yeah.
So my answer is gonna be very, very different. I've actually made videos on this in the past. Now, before I say my answer, just hear me out. Just hear me
I
out.
think I know where you're going with it.
My answer is I say this answer just strictly because I'm thinking about it differently of how he could have been utilized and how he could have been used. I don't think this person, not saying he would have been like world champion or anything, but we're talking somebody who could have been used better. I feel like he could have been in a better spot. I'm gonna say Doink the Clown, bro. Hear me out though. Hear me out though.
Facts. No, you're right. You're right.
Mm.
The reason I'm gonna say Doink the Clown is because I feel like, you know, they were doing a lot of those goofy gimmicks back in these time frames and everything, and you know, Doink the Clown could actually wrestle and put on good matches too. But this was a time frame where they had goofy gimmicks and was like over the top, right? I feel like they missed the opportunity to really push him as like a very heelish demon type clown, because a lot of people are afraid of clowns. Like there's a lot of people who are terrified of clowns. So I feel like if they would have used him to be like a Pennywise, you know, type of character where he was like a mysterious evil type clown, instead of having him to, you know, be the circus over the top clown baby face, you know what I mean? Like I feel like they could have done something better with Doink as a heel. Not saying he would have been like WWF champion or anything, but like even though he was a heel at one point, they didn't utilize him long as a heel, and then they switched him to babyface, and then he's coming out with Dink and stuff, and doing the circle back. I feel like Doink the Clown could have been somebody they could have really used as a top heel, just for the simple fact that people are afraid of clowns, bro. Like, you saw how people reacted when they saw The Undertaker for the first time, and all these people from that time frame. Imagine Doink coming out as like this demon type clown, you know what I mean? And people who are afraid of clowns. I feel like it would have been so easy to utilize him that way. Like, they could have did something a lot better with him.
I think an evil clown could still work today, but it has to be an evil clown.
Yeah, evil clown. Yeah,
like clown, very evil clowns work.
And there probably could have been more time and room for that had Matt Bourne not gotten fired. That's
literally.
That's when they So like that kind of killed it altogether.
But even before he got fired, I don't know if they, knowing Vince, I don't know if he saw him in that light, because the stuff he was doing before, you know what I'm saying? Like, he had him as a circus act. He was a circus clown basically, and it was like,
I mean, he did wrestle Bret Hart.
Yeah,
like,
albeit
the circus clown act is kind of like, I feel like the circus clown act is a hard thing to really work, because like I said, not everybody has clowns are phobias for some people. It's like spiders, you know what I mean? Like, some people like spiders, some people really don't like spiders. There's really no in between. I think clowns are kind of the same way. Some people are really afraid of clowns. Some people don't have issues with clowns. I don't have a problem with clowns. They don't scare me, but like, there are people out there who are legitimately terrified of them. So I feel like if Matt Bourne had that clown gimmick as like the crazy, clown heel, they could do a lot of cool things with that. I feel like
the Joker, yeah.
One last person,
Joker's thing, yeah, basically.
Yeah. One last person who I think all of us will now be like sucked, but I thought had a lot of hype when I was a kid, because I was like 6-7 years old, and I thought was gonna win the world title, was Ahmed Johnson. I thought that guy,
Ahmed Johnson,
man had so much hype in 1996. He was teaming with Shawn. He was the Intercontinental Champion, the first Black Intercontinental Champion. I was like, this guy's gonna be the world champion one day. And,
there are certain wrestlers that you grow up on. There are certain wrestlers that you grow up on and look at that, because like for me, when I was growing up, one guy that I thought for sure was going to be a world champion was Chris Masters. Like, I thought.
Yes.
I thought you were gonna say like Luther Reigns or something.
No. Chris bro, when they debuted Chris Masters,
Tyson Tonko.
When they debuted Chris Masters, when I was growing up, and he was very young, like 22, 23. They gave this guy the whole presentation of the entrance, the move, he had the look and everything. He was working with Shawn Michaels on pay-per-views. I'm like, oh, this guy, he got the world championship look. Team with Carlito.
He could wrestle.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he the first guy ever to tap out to the STF?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
First person they put it on,
I only know that because I did that on a trivia for him one time.
But Chris Masters, they gave, like, he had like everything. Like, as a kid looking back, I thought like, oh, he got everything they want. He got the look and everything.
I could talk about the 2000s. That's a different episode, because there's a lot of guys in that mix that I'm like,
oh yeah.
Loki should have won or could have won.
My 10th favorite wrestler of all time, Mr. Kennedy.
Venice, back to the 90s. Let's get back to my childhood.
Mr. Kennedy was dope, but there's some good answers that we mentioned. What is one match? The last question I'm gonna ask, and then we'll dive into random topics. What is one match from the 90s? Maybe that's your favorite match, or like one match from the 90s that you feel like you could just go back and just watch anytime. Like, it's just this match is just like awesome.
Austin Brett. I'm gonna give you. Austin Brett's number one for me. WrestleMania 13, number one.
Amazing.
Savage Warrior WrestleMania 7 is like one that I can watch all the time. But there's this one match that happened on Monday Night Raw. I don't have the date right now. It was like May 10th or something like that. That I think was very underappreciated. And I always used to like post about it and call it like a hidden gem, because I'm like, if you didn't watch Raw in the 90s or like in 97, you probably totally missed this. It might have been the finals of the European Championship tournament, but it was Owen Hart versus the British Bulldog. And it happened
I remember you talking about
Germany or Kuwait or somewhere. It was in a dark arena. It wasn't bright or anything, but like just the match itself between those two, it was so good. If you never watch a match, like, go watch it, because Owen and Bulldog put on like a really good match. That's like a hidden gem. Like, everyone can say Austin Brett, Warrior, this, that, Brett, Owen, WrestleMania 10. Like, there's a bunch of matches you can say right off the top of your head, but for a match that I think is obscure that I think people should watch, it's not.
So one of my answer is going to be maybe a little bit different. One of my all-time favorite matches is Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6.
Great match.
That shit is so good. The story, the match. Generally, I still believe it's one of the greatest WrestleMania main events of all time. And when people say Hulk Hogan is a bad wrestler, I will always say he's one of 3 people to carry Ultimate Warrior to have a good match. So if he can provide a good match with the Ultimate Warrior, who was always gassed running to the ring,
he was gassed in the match.
Gassed in the match, and could barely do stuff. It's just a very good, well put match together. And I put my mindset back in that time frame. You know, babyface versus babyface was like unheard of. The champion, of the world champion, the intercontinental champion, the unpredictability, the people not knowing who's going to win, who they really want to win. And then the finish, I think, was so cool as well, where, like, you know, every time Hogan hits the leg drop, you think it's going to be over, and then he misses, and then the splash, and then the 1, 2, 3, and then he kicks out right at the end. It's like, is that close? Like, it's just very well put together. I genuinely believe it's one of the greatest matches that you.
And it's crazy too, because I'm not the biggest Warrior fan. I don't think I've ever been the biggest Warrior fan. Maybe as a kid I liked him briefly, and it's not because of documentary. He wasn't my guy.
Right.
But it's crazy that you named a Warrior match and I named a Warrior match.
Well, me and Malik have gone back and forth on yeah. I have a slightly different take. The only reason why I give Hulk Hogan his flowers, because I did the math on this. If you look at most of the arenas that, like the Wrestling Challenge or Superstars, when the Warrior came to the ring, it was a very, very short entrance. This is the Sky Dome, so this is probably damn near a football field that he ran to the ring, which is why he gassed himself out, and he wanted to go home earlier, and Hogan said no. So I look at matches.
Yeah, the main event.
Yeah, I look at matches, and this is probably the curse of being such a technical wrestling fan. I look at that match from a different standpoint. I'm like, move for move. I'm like, but the height, the moment in history, almost like Hogan Andre. Hogan Andre, I think, was a terrible match, but that slam will live in infamy. So
I think Hogan Warrior is a much better match.
compared to that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Andre couldn't move. He was broken.
Oh.
He almost didn't wrestle in that match. Shit.
Mo, you want to give your answer?
Yeah, I mean, Austin Brett, I think, is like the obvious answer for sure. Like, what more can I say about that hasn't been said already? But also, one of the comments that I forgot about, but that needs to be talked about more. Bret Hart and Diesel from Survivor Series 95. For some reason, 95 is the worst year in company history, arguably, right? But that show was really good, and that is the best title defense of Diesel's entire reign.
Yep.
Like, it might be the best match he's ever had. Like,
yep.
That shit was really fucking good. Like that David versus Goliath story they told in that match.
This is also back in the time
first table spot too.
This is also back in a time when you could do roll-up finishes and get a massive pop winning on a roll-up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nowadays people go crazy about a roll-up finish, but like that finish was very good, and the table spot was pretty good too.
Go ahead, sorry.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the first time in WWE history that someone went through a table. If I'm not mistaken.
That's definitely table spot. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm also just like, my mind's more nuts about like the 90s right now. And I'm like, the amount of Brett and Shawn matches that would just be not like against each other, like Brett McFoley Mind Games. I love that match, right?
Yeah.
Brett Owen WrestleMania 10, right? Great match. Brett Mr. Perfect, Brett Bulldog, Brett was just on Brett Taker, like at the UK pay-per-view. The other Bret Austin at Survivor Series 96 was a banger.
Very
good.
Good.
Sean and Razor at SummerSlam 95. Like, Sean and Brett were just hitting at all cylinders in the 90s. It's like, it's hard to just sit there.
Is it okay if I give two answers? One is more of a heart answer, and the other is kind of a history answer. So my Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect at the 93 King of the Ring, the semifinal, I will argue
great match
is from a move for move match is probably the greatest match of his career. Now, some would say Austin, and I'm like, yeah, but you got to remember, this is Austin after he had gotten hurt, after he had been stunning Steve Austin. He wasn't as mobile. That match was more about the spots in the moment.
The Brett match?
Another match that I just cannot run away from, the casket match with Yokozuna and The Undertaker. That I don't know what my affinity is with that match, but just it made The Undertaker look like a badass because it took 10 guys.
Yeah.
And Paul Bear getting knocked out and the urn getting open, all that green shit going on. It took 10 guys to put that man in a casket. It may be a goofy answer to some, But it's just something I can't.
I was just so fascinated about him rising to the skies and the
Yeah, that was
flame of the dead man.
And I actually and just to give you a quick Taker story, Malik, you couldn't be there because you had to drive back home to Louisville, but I did a WrestleMania 38. We did a Q&A, and I asked him about that spot where he does that speech, and in pure Undertaker fashion, because I asked him how he did it, he looked at me, he's like, "None of your business." That man stand on business.
I will say the Bret Austin match at Mania 13 that happened before he broke his neck. He didn't break his neck till SummerSlam.
No, I'm talking about after he got hurt when he was stunning Steve Austin.
Oh.
When he was stunning Steve Austin, he was a lot more mobile. After he got hurt, he had to change his wrestling style. That's what I was.
No, but he still wrestled the same until he broke his neck.
Yeah, he still wrestled the same.
He was still like a technician. As Austin would say, "Oh, I used to be a mechanic." He was still a mechanic.
I guess I'm looking at it from a standpoint of like that match he had with Muda, where he was just like flying all over the ring, like he kind of looked like Mr. Perfect.
He changed his style though to be more of a brawler. Yeah, that's for sure. And that match at WrestleMania 13 was more of a brawl than it was a wrestling.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I was getting at. But thank you for the clarification.
Sebastian, what's the one you want to throw out there?
So for me, a 90s match that I really love, everyone already said Bret Austin, so that's one of my favorite matches. But I'm like I said, you see my profile picture on my main account. It's Raven. I'm gonna throw out a Raven match. I'm gonna throw out Fall Brawl 1998, the only good match in that piece of shit show. Raven versus Perry Saturn. From the storytelling of like Perry Saturn trying to break away from the manipulation of Raven of the flock, the Raven was manipulating him and his friends, and he's trying to break away, and he was forced to be Raven's slave for so long in order to even get the match. The story of like he's fighting against all the odds, and like it's really believable of how all these guys like Canyon and everyone's interfering, and Perry Saturn is still able to kick out of everything because like his heart is just too in it to win it. Raven being a great heel. The match itself, like that, even though it's like a hardcore match, whatever, it's mostly it's a lot of mat wrestling, and it's very good. Like Perry Saturn is a good worker. Raven is an underrated worker. So it's a very good match from a storytelling standpoint, from a in-ring standpoint. It's just all around just a very good match. It's a very great match. I'd say great match actually, and yeah, it's probably it's one of Raven's best matches. And like I said, it's one that a lot of people don't talk about because it's a fucking piece of shit pay-per-view, that Fall Brawl 98 garbage. But
you didn't like the Warrior in a smoke machine putting everyone to sleep and breaking the cage?
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior, Bulldog.
Smoke machine is crazy.
Injured his back, yeah. He was never the same after that.
All right, so we'll talk about some of the bad. Everybody can
really quickly before we get called out. There was one match nobody mentioned that we all know was a banger and everybody loves it. Is that Eddie Ray match from Halloween Havoc?
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course. Yeah. That's one of my favorite matches ever.
Probably a really innovative match for that style of
Great
wrestling.
match.
And the wrestling we see today was influenced by that match. There's a lot of wrestlers I've talked to in the past 5 years that are like, say that's the match that influenced them. So that was also a great match as well.
Great match, yeah.
Sure. All right, so we'll dive into some of the bad of the 90s, and then we can dive into the good. So everybody can mention something about the 90s that really pisses them off and something that they will just never understand and get over. So for me, one thing that really has irritated me that I've always talked about, this fucking Lex Luger tour, bro.
Yep, I knew this was where he was going.
I will never understand how they gave this man a whole tour to build up to SummerSlam. Oh, he's gonna win the championship. He's our next guy, weeks. Right? He gave him a whole tour. Body slams, Yoko's in on the tour. Oh my God, people are going crazy. It's unheard of, right? We get to SummerSlam. They have this dude win the match by a count out. That's not even the part that really pisses me off the most. It's the fact of what they did afterwards. They gave him a literal celebration.
Hey,
balloons, confetti,
on his shoulders.
He actually accomplished something. He didn't win the title. So why is he celebrating? He literally won the match by a count out. And we all know the rules. You don't win the championship via count out, right? He wins the match via count out after doing this whole tour. And they gave him an actual celebration in the end of SummerSlam, like he actually accomplished something. What are we celebrating for? He didn't win. He doesn't have the title. Like what was the entire point of investing into the Lex Luger Lex Express tour if he actually wasn't going to be executed to be the champion? That's one thing that I will never understand. Like, you wasted all that time for what? You did the whole tour, wasted everything, all the hype, all the momentum for nothing, just for him to win the match via count out and then have a celebration with no championship around his waist. Why is Lex Luger excited and celebrating with confetti and balloons and people were coming out holding him up like, yeah, Lex, like you're the man. He's not the champion. He didn't do anything.
Shit is a consolation prize.
the whole concept of just the genesis of it always boggles my mind. I'm like, y'all tell me if I'm wrong. Typically, when someone turns from heel to babyface or babyface to heel, like there's like some gigantic story. Like, we literally go from him and Tatanka at the King of the Ring having a tie, which was strategic because they were both undefeated at the time, to literally this guy was the narcissist. Yeah, this guy was the narcissist. He had the steel arm. He was knocking everybody out. To literally, you're getting in Yokozuna's face on Monday Night Raw because he's talking shit about America. And now all of a sudden, you want to know one of the weirdest moments for me? We're getting into that whole thing, and then the Royal Rumble video game comes out, and he's the narcissist in the video game.
Yeah.
Like, this whole thing was just a shit sandwich from the start. So I agree with you on that one, Malik.
Like, if they weren't going to want to invest all that time into Lex Luger, you could at least had him lose the match or something. But the fact that he won by count out and then celebrated, what are we celebrating?
That was the original.
And they got DQ'd at WrestleMania 10.
That was the original finishing the story. What are you talking about, man? He went on tour and he finished the story. He beat Yokozuna by any means necessary.
That's my answer. I thought that's one that really pisses me off.
It's crazy because they taped a thing where Luger made an entrance with the belt and everything.
Yeah,
for Superstars taping later and stuff. I posted the clip before. So like the plan was for him to win. Somewhere I might have to go listen to Bruce Pritchard or something, but somewhere they changed the plans.
I can answer that because I just heard this. We're all familiar with Sean Waltman, 1-2-3 Kid. He did an interview. What's the name of it? The History of WWE 1994, and it's actually very similar. The answer is very similar to what happened with Cody at WrestleMania 40. It was Luger, but the fans at the house shows were literally chanting, "We want Brett." That's what happened. That's what happened. It's very similar to what we just had with Cody last year.
So that's my answer. Mo, what's one you want to? What's the little rant you want to go on?
Just WrestleMania 9 as a whole.
Oh, really?
Like I just don't understand that entire, especially the last two matches. But like the show before that was boring as shit. But those Gonzalez Taker and the fact that they ran it back again at SummerSlam in '93.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't good the first time. Then you did a fucking rest in peace match at SummerSlam, which was a spooky way to do a no DQ, and the chair was used not once, not thrice, but twice. Brett Yoko.
Gonzalez was shredded. What are you talking about?
Malik, can I tell him?
That suit pisses me off. That suit
is crazy. The suit is crazy.
He was shredded. He had hair in all the right places.
I don't understand why they get bro.
Malik, should I tell him?
He had a regular ass.
Oh yeah, for some reason, Alan's favorite WrestleMania is WrestleMania 9. I don't know why.
It is.
Why?
No, I was gonna say to you too. Like, I don't hate it as much as other people. I still find it enjoyable to watch. I don't know why.
So here's the thing. WrestleMania 9. It's my first. It's my baby. I love it. But I also understand how bad it was. Here's the thing that and the documentary did such a great job of pointing this out. The reason why WrestleMania 9 was so bad is you have to take into account the time frame. 1992, by far, from a PR standpoint and just shit that happened, was one of the worst years of all time. The amount of talent that left. The scandals, the loss of revenue, the loss of money. So now you go into 93. It's almost like when you have that college football team that was the champion, but all the good guys went to the NFL, and then you're left with, a lot of younger guys. They didn't have a lot to put on that show. Like, that roster was gapped. Like, WrestleMania 10 showed you that, okay, we've gotten better. We know how to do this shit better now.
They still had a stacked roster. That's not fair. They could have.
They had Randy Savage and commentary.
Taker could have had a better opponent.
No, well, that brings my second point.
It could have been Brett Savage.
Wait,
That
brings my second. Wait. That brings my second point. Yeah. Wait a minute. That brings my second point. What made it even worse was the booking. Let me see if I can get this right. Let me see if I can understand this.
It's insane, bro.
You had the best match of the best two matches on the card are the first two. You have Mr. Perfect and Luger. Mr. Perfect forgets. Like, he blanks out in the entire match. You have Hulk Hogan in a tag team match, and then he leaves and wins the world title. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I'll give you one worse.
Shawn, Perfect, Luger,
I know.
Taker. They had a stacked roster.
Steiner. But you ready for this? I'll give you one worse. One I'll never understand. WrestleMania 11. Let me see if I can.
It's worse than that.
That is just boring.
No.
That is just a boring show.
Let me see if I can get this right.
And I'm not a football guy, so I didn't care about Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get this right. You have a mid 93 because you're building things up. 94, much better WrestleMania, much better Royal Rumble. You know, Shawn's progressing, Razor's progressing, Diesel wins all three titles in 1 year. You start off 95 with a banger of a Royal Rumble. Shawn becomes the first man ever to win to be the first entrant and win. That Shawn, Razor and Double J opener banger. Taker, IRS, banger. Brett, Diesel, even though it went to a draw, banger. We do all of this. You have all this momentum coming off of a better 94 than you had in 93, and you start off with a banger of a Royal Rumble, and this is what we get? This is what we get. We go from Brett and Yoko. You know, we go for 8 years of Hulk Hogan to Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow. The WWF Championship match doesn't even go on last. The Intercontinental title match, snooze fest. The only good title match would be the Smoking Guns against Owen Hart and a guest Yokozuna.
Maybe, and I'm not saying we don't have a culture for football here because I'm from Canada. There is a culture and people love it, but I didn't care about it, so I didn't care about Lawrence. I was more excited even as a kid to see Pamela Anderson.
Let me just finish this off with the biggest thing that pissed me off about that WrestleMania. As bad as we hated the Bob Backlund Bret Hart finish at Survivor Series 94. It is one of the greatest technical wrestling matches you'll ever see.
I've actually never watched it back in so long.
That match sucks.
And honestly, of all these names you said, you brought up 1, 2, 3 Kid. I'm like, oh, we forgot to talk about that match. You brought up 92. I was like, oh man, we didn't talk about Bret and Piper at WrestleMania 8. Yeah. Another classic. Bret owned the 90s. That's all I'm saying.
Drake Quinn, that's WrestleMania 12, buddy. And then we get this match, and for the second year in a row, we have Piper as a special guest referee. And the match ends with, what do you say? And then all of a sudden, Bob Backlund sees the light and he's the babyface. Worst WrestleMania of all time. I hear you about WrestleMania 9, but this made it much worse because at least with WrestleMania 9, they somewhat had a little bit of an excuse. WrestleMania 11 had no excuse to be that bad.
Also, they had Piper. He wasn't washed yet. You can put him in a fucking match. He wasn't even washed yet. Put him in a match.
No.
That was the problem at the beginning of the era. They were using Bob Backlund, and they were still down to use Hogan, but they didn't want to use Piper. They didn't want to use Savage. Like, what are we doing? They're using Lawler. Like, what are we doing?
Tell me about it.
So
that's my answer. WrestleMania 11. That's just one. I'm like, make it make sense.
Bob Backlund, I hate you.
Anybody else can throw out one. It doesn't matter who.
Do you want to go next, James? I don't know. I don't really.
All right. Well, WCW in general. There's so many goddamn WCW pay-per-views.
Yeah.
I can talk about Halloween Havoc 1991. Let's start with that one. The Chamber of Horrors match. The goddamn Chamber of Horrors match. You know what a Chamber of Horrors match is? It's a goddamn steel cage match with like 10 freaking people in it. Great talent, by the way, and also Giant Gonzalez. Great talent. Okay, you have
Ellie got
you
it.
have Scott Hall, you have Cactus Jack, you have not Barry Windham, like Arn Anderson, I think. You have a bunch of legends in this match. And you can't do anything because it's in a steel cage. It's like Abdullah the Butcher also sucked. He's in that match. He also sucked. You have a bunch of great talent in that match. All they can do is throw punches because there's so many things. There's like too many people in the same ring, and all they do is throw punches and hit each other with weapons. You get the object of a Chamber of Horrors match is to freaking. There's an electric chair hanging up in the ceiling. You have to pull a lever to bring down the electric chair, and then one of the teams has to put another member of the teams in the electric chair and electrocute them and like kill them, I guess, to win the match. That's the finish of the match. It's so stupid. And then to top it off, the finish is terrible because Cactus Jack and Abdullah Butcher are on the same team. Cactus Jack has to go and pull the lever, and Scott Steiner is about to be put in the chair, but then he does his belly-to-belly suplex on Abdullah Butcher. The problem is the chair isn't working like it's supposed to. So Cactus Jack is sitting there like an idiot, and he's literally looking at Scott Steiner about like putting his teammate in the freaking chair. He's literally his teammate, and he's just standing there, and he's gonna let. So then they finally the chair starts like working. So he pulls the lever. And again, the commentator Jim Ross has to say, "Oh, Cactus Jack thinks it's Steiner in the chair, but it's Abdullah." When really, Cactus Jack has been looking at freaking Abdullah Butcher the entire freaking time. So he just electrocuted his own teammate. But like,
Shout out WCW.
Stupid. It's terrible. I hate it. That's just one match.
There was a lot of matches. There was a lot of matches where people were getting murdered in the 90s. Buried Alive, Casket, Hell in the Cells, Chamber of Wars. Hey, we killed
White Castle of Fear. Yeah.
Listen, guys, I know King of the Ring 95 gets a lot of flack. That's a terrible show. Let me introduce you to the real worst pay-per-view of 1995. Uncensored 1995.
The Triple Cage.
Here's the opening match. The opening match.
That's 96.
Rhodes and
Oh,
Barry
shit.
Darsow, the Repo Man, Crush from Demolition. Two great workers. And a King of the Road match. Do you guys know what a King of the Road match is?
They're fighting in the back of a
match
truck.
in which the two combatants have to fight in the back of an 18-wheeler, an open 18-wheeler, driving with hay bales in the back. And the entire time they're shaking. They can't. All they can do is brawl and like little pile drivers and suplexes because they keep falling over their asses because the car is shaking. So Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham are fighting and they're literally doing this shit the entire time. The object of the match, is to like crawl over and ring the bell at the end of the 18-wheeler. They have to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. It's so dumb. It goes on for 15 minutes, and it's so boring and monotonous. To top it all off, the Blacktop Bully, Barry Darsow, Repo Man, wins. And guess what, guys? In a pay-per-view called Uncensored, where there's no rules, it's unsanctioned. Everything's crazy, right? Everything's crazy. The two guys start bleeding. Guess what happens?
Fired.
They get fired. They get fired because they bled on a pay-per-view called Uncensored. They got fired. That's how Dustin Rhodes went to WWE to become Goldust, because of that stupid-ass match. Up next match, Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Haku, a.k.a. Meng, in a martial arts match.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
In big 1995, Hacksaw Jim Duggan comes out in a bandana and street clothes. Haku comes out in a pretty dope-ass outfit. And there's no martial arts. Haku throws a bunch of kicks, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan just fights normally and keeps no-selling like he's Hulk Hogan. He just keeps no-selling everything. Haku kicks him in the chest, no-sells. Haku punches him, no-sells. Haku's also no-selling. So it's just two guys no-selling for 7 goddamn minutes. Eventually, Haku hits him with a kick, and he freaking wins. And it's terrible. It's a terrible match. It's just terrible. Up next guy. You guys, WrestleMania 2 had this incredible boxing match.
I knew we were going.
All right, go. Guess
Wait, this all happened on Uncensored 95?
Has Johnny B. Bad, aka Mark Merrill, versus Arn Anderson, wrestler versus boxer. It's a 10 minutes of Johnny B. Bad punching Arn Anderson, and Arn Anderson has to like push him off or run away. And the match ends with the babyface Johnny B. Bad cheating by putting a fucking bucket over Arn Anderson's head and then punching him with a bucket, cheating to win in a boxing match. What the hell? Then Sting and Big Boss Man, Big Bobby Rogers, that's a good match. There's a Harlem Heat match. It's like a street fight. That match is not good. Let me get to the main event. The main event, the worst match of this show.
I'm looking at the main event right now.
I don't know what it is. I'm waiting for the surprise.
Vader in a strap match with
the Texas
Ric
Bull Rope
Flair in
match.
his corner. And Hulk Hogan, in the lead up to this pay-per-view, was teasing the ultimate surprise. He was teasing that the Ultimate Warrior was going to help him, right? Was going to help him. He was going to help him. Oh, the ultimate surprise. On the pre-show beforehand, this is not the Ultimate Warrior. This is the Ultimate Swerve. And it's some crappy-ass Ultimate Warrior rock knockoff called The Renegade.
Renegade,
fucking R painted on his face and literally has off-brand Ultimate Warrior music. You literally listen to Renegade's theme, then listen to Warrior's theme. The same shit. It's terrible. So whatever. So the match starts, right? In the Sting or in the Randy Savage Avalanche match, that match sucked. Avalanche match, right? If I forgot to mention, Ric Flair is feuding with Hogan and Savage, or Hogan and Savage because they're friends, whatever. He interferes. Ric Flair, for some reason, dressed up as a woman. He painted his nails. He put on fake breasts. He put on eyeliner and mascara that he doesn't even take off in the main event. So anyway, main event, Hogan and Sting, or Hogan and Vader in a strap match. In a strap match. And, you know, Sting, or Ric Flair is in Vader's corner, and Hogan's corner, he has fucking the Renegade, who's terrible. Even in this match, he doesn't even wrestle, and he's terrible. Like, so the match starts, they're brawling with a strap or whatever. Most of the match, the camera's focused on Ric Flair running away and trying to sell for the Renegade, who looks stupid the entire time. Ric Flair's just giving him 1,000 punches and not selling it at all. Halfway through the match, again, the match you barely see because they're mostly focusing on Renegade and Ric Flair fighting and Renegade chasing Ric Flair. You see Jimmy Hart, who's all beat up because they beat him up early in the night. They kidnapped him or whatever. He comes in and interferes. And he interferes while Renegade is standing there like an idiot. He interferes. He goes in and hits Vader. So then Vader goes out the ring to choke Jimmy Hart in front of Renegade. And you know what Renegade's doing? Let me show you what Renegade's doing. Well, Hulk Hogan's friend is choking out. Hogan's friend is being choked out by Vader, by his arch nemesis. So then freaking Hogan has to save him, right? Hogan has to save him, and it gets worse because again they're just focusing on Ric Flair and Renegade. So then Ric Flair gets involved again. Renegade again doing a really bad job. Eventually, Hogan and Vader falls off the top. He's about to hit because again Ric Flair manages to take out the Renegade. So good job of making Renegade look like an idiot. So Vader gets out the strap. He falls off. He tries to do the Vader bomb. He falls out the strap. And you know, whatever. So he gets out of the ring, and then Hogan hulks up, beats up Vader, puts him out of the ring, and beats up Flair. You want to know how Hogan wins the match? You want to know how Hogan wins the match? Because remember, this is a strap match, and Vader is his opponent. He puts the strap on Ric Flair, then he touches all four corners, and is declared the winner, even though he was fighting Vader and not Ric Flair.
Bro, this.
I don't think I've ever fully sat there and watched this pay-per-view start to finish. I remember all of this. I think I forwarded most of it.
And that was the first
on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Like I said, maybe I said it off the air when they launched the WCW channel. For some reason, WWE's like, let's put all the shitty shit up first.
And then it gets worse.
Let's put all the bad stuff up first, like 2000 WCW, 1995 uncensored. Like, what are we doing?
After the match, because earlier Arn Anderson came out and attacked Renegade or whatever. So after the match, a guy in a mask comes out, and you think it's Arn Anderson earlier.
I forgot
but
about
it's actually Savage. And then Arn Anderson, like in a goddamn Looney Tunes cartoon, comes out tied up. His mouth is gagged. He has his things and his legs tied like he's a woman, and he's jumping like this to the ring like a goddamn cartoon character. Like a goddamn cartoon character. It's terrible.
I don't remember that. I need to go watch this.
I
don't
remember
this
that.
at
I
all.
remember that.
It's on
Sucks.
YouTube.
It's savage.
WCW's channel. It's on YouTube. Free.
It's crazy because I know I've watched this. It's because there's another thing too when the network came out. I put a lot of things on in the background while I was doing other shit. I just don't like. I remember this whole card. I remember every match you talked about. But this ending, for some reason, I just don't remember.
It's one of the it's the worst of the 3 matches that him and Vader had. It's the worst one. It's by far.
I love the one thing I'll say that is a positive about the 90s, and they don't do it anymore. That one thing, like good or bad, they tried things in the 90s. They tried new things and they tried different.
They
things.
did.
Yeah, they
A
definitely
lot
tried.
of them didn't work out, but a lot of shit for me as a kid was nostalgic because you brought up Hogan Vader, like. That bash at the beach that actually happened on a beach was so cool to me, and it's still so cool to me. The road wilds that happened at the bike rallies were cool to me.
Sturgis.
The spring break nitros when the ring was around surrounded by a pool and you were just waiting for someone to go in the water was cool to me, and that shit we don't get no more. I mean, AEW tried with the Jericho Cruise and stuff a little bit. They did it one time, but like. I just like that they tried shit like that. And they tried to put wrestling in the most randomest venues, and it doesn't because like nowadays sometimes. It doesn't matter for the most part what arena they're in. Everything just looks the same.
Yeah.
If you didn't tell me what arena they're in, I'm just gonna be like, this is the show at this place.
We used to go to malls and all types of stuff, man.
Malls, all types of crazy shit. Like it was cool as a kid, or like just growing up watching that and being like, what the hell, they're wrestling on the beach? I take my own little toy wrestling ring outside with my action figures and play outside and be like, it's bash at the beach, because like you could believe that was true. It's just I'll give them the credit for that. Yeah, like the aesthetic and the ability to try to do different things. Yeah, they did dumb shit like wrestle in the back of a truck, but like at least they tried to do some unique shit, right? We play it too safe these days. And I think it's because we're in a culture now where everybody just loves the wrestling. Like we love we want good matches, which is also fucked because we have such a. If you told me right now, if this was an episode about the 2020s and tells the best matches, I don't even know where to start because we get good matches all the fucking time on a weekly basis on TV, on Dynamite, on Raws, on like it's like I don't know, but like you can ask for the best matches right now. We're like, oh, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, King of the Ring. Maybe that one rare Raw match. It's just a different time. I don't know.
Yeah, Brett 1, 2, 3 King.
Yeah, so let's dive into this conversation. We'll start with Alan because you're the biggest Bret Hart guy. Why do you feel there's a lot of negative Bret Hart energy in this modern era? Do you feel like people just don't connect with Bret because maybe his lack of character, or do you think maybe you had to be there in real time to watch him to maybe fully understand? You think maybe he does some things to himself by things that he says, in interviews and other things? Like, what do you feel like there's a disconnect and a disrespect to the legacy of Bret Hart? Because when, people say, he's a top 10 wrestler like of all time in WWE, some people say, oh, that's crazy. How can he be in the top 10? So what do you feel like there's a misconception attached to Bret Hart's legacy for?
I think it's a combination of all of it. I think a lot of fans, there's a couple of answers I can give you. A lot of fans that don't connect with Bret, yes, obviously the lack of in-ring character and mic skills basically until 97, where a lot of people would think he was boring because they're not looking at the match, they're listening to what he says. But that's primarily because a lot of the big names were talkers. Hogan was a big talker. Flair was a big talker. Savage was a big talker. We go back to, we go further up, Austin Rock. So there was kind of an expectation that you kind of had to be able to do both. And since he was only more so in the ring, he kind of gets knocked for that. I don't really argue with people on that. I think there's also bad
talker.
Huh?
He was never even a bad talker. That's the thing.
He wasn't a bad one, but I'm just saying, as opposed to he wasn't the energetic guy. Like Sting could do both. Sting would be like, I'm hungry and I'll eat you like a shark, and then give you a bang of a match. Bret gave you a banger of a match, but you didn't really care what he says. I can count his good promos before 97 on one hand, but it is what it is. What I will say in terms of it always boggles my mind when people get upset about, the things he says, because Bret Hart's never one of those guys that comes on social media and just tweets and talks shit. Everything he says, whether it be Goldberg, whether it be Montreal, whether it be the status of wrestling today, whether it be a Triple H match, they're all interviews. He's always asked these questions. So I always find it funny when people I'm like, he was asked a question and he gave an honest answer. Like, you guys have been complaining about Hulk Hogan lying for years. He gives you an honest answer and you don't like it. So I think that's part of it. Also, the disconnect. If you didn't live in that era and you had to go
Bingo.
back and watch his matches, but you grew up with, guys like, Austin, Rock, Cena, there could be a bit of a disconnect, because I kind of felt it too when I kind of got back into it, where it was like, oh, I don't really relate with some of these guys. Like, I couldn't watch the Attitude Era in real time because I was so used and locked into what I grew up with. WrestleMania to me was a little bit more traditional for the first, couple, and then you now got matches where you got women taking their tops off, and hardcore title and beer trucks, and so there can also be a disconnect. But I think to sum it up, some people can't relate. Some people just they don't. You can't appreciate what you didn't get to experience live. I think those are all big factors of it. And the one other thing I'm going to put out is there's also a level of hypocrisy. Bret Hart is the only guy, and I forget who made a video about this, where simply what he says makes him the most evil guy. We've had people that have killed people. We have people that have committed domestic violence, that have said the N-word, that have done all sorts of crazy shit. But we are going to draw the line at Bret Hart saying something you don't like. The hypocrisy is mind-boggling.
It's insane, bro. There's
murderers.
Yeah.
I'll even throw a historical one, because me and Ric Flair fans go at it all the time about this. So Ric Flair fans will bitch at me about Montreal. Isn't your guy the guy who left WCW with the big gold belt and took it to the WWF? We are not having that conversation. So it's all combined into one, Malik.
I feel like you brought up a good point. Watching something in real time is different than going back and watching it years later. Like, I don't know, living through certain things, especially when you're a kid growing up, you view things differently. So when you're growing up watching something, it's very much different opposed to, what it is now. I just made a video about this the other day. So a lot of people today always complain about people like Rhea Ripley, Cody Rhodes, just to name an example, about how they're consistently involved in the world championship picture, right? It's become a big issue. Like, Rhea is always involved in the world title picture. Cody's always involved in the world title picture. They're so overpushed. But I'm like, every top superstar that you can name always gets overpushed. That's how you establish their legacy. They're going to be utilized and overpushed because you react to them in a positive way where they're massively over. So they're going to be valued in a high spot. And people will complain about that. But they'll look back on like 2007 Batista, who had every pay-per-view match involved with the World Championship. From January to December, Batista's entire year in 2007 was revolved around the World Heavyweight Championship. He was either defending the championship or he was trying to win the championship and get it back. People will look back on that, though, and praise that, but it's mainly probably because they grew up in that time frame. So they didn't look at it the same as they do now. You know what I mean? Like, it's a nostalgia factor. It's like, oh, that was great then. But if Batista were to do the same thing in today's era, it wouldn't be as well received, I feel like. It would be looked at completely different. So
no, it might have been not well received then too, but if you were a kid, you didn't care. The kids don't care that Rhea Ripley and these people are getting pushed. It's the people that grew up and now like, oh, they keep pushing the same people. I like this person now. I always use that because I never liked John Cena. I'm not a John Cena guy because I was a teenager and a young adult when John Cena was getting the mega pushes, and I hated that shit. But then I also grew up to learn, and also by running my page, that I wasn't his target audience. It was the kids. You know what I mean? And now kids that grew up with John Cena are 25, 24, 23, 26 now, and they're loving this John Cena retirement tour. He's the GOAT because the nostalgia they had with him as a kid. I don't feel that way about him. I don't give a shit about seeing him at SummerSlam, because that's how I felt. But then I also realized he wasn't my guy. Nostalgia has a big part to play with it. You're not wrong. I just think because the people will be like, oh, like wrestling fans complain in every era. I've been running Wrestling Classic now for 11 years, and we've gone through at least 2-3 eras. Every era there will be fans complaining about something, whether it's good or bad. So even if you were a kid though, you don't care.
I went back to I've seen like forums in like 98 to 2000. They're bitching about Steve Austin. It's insane.
Yeah, do you get what I'm trying to
Yes.
say? Like, if like there's people out there that will sit there and tell you that like 1997 sucked, but now with rose-colored glasses, we look back and we're like that was one of the greatest years. There was people then complaining about that. A lot of people praise the ruthless aggression era. Oh, greatest era of wrestling. These guys came up. You know, people were complaining about Evolution. People look back at Evolution now like greatest faction. Then people fucking hated Triple H and Evolution.
Yeah, they didn't like Triple H at all.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Like,
They literally called it the Reign of Terror.
it's really
Yeah,
when you were
yeah.
a kid, like where you have the most. So like, to the Bret Hart thing, what I was gonna say is like, it sucks because my nostalgia from why I said when you living through is like I have nostalgia from as a kid. I was a Bret Hart fan as a kid. I loved the Undertaker and the Macho Man, but I couldn't be like the Undertaker and the Macho Man. They were like larger than life. There's no way I was gonna grow up and be like Macho Man or a dead guy like the Undertaker. But Bret was real. I could be like Bret Hart. He was like our Fonzie. He wore a leather jacket. He was a real human being. Like that was like a superhero you could be.
Funny as shit.
Everybody has different targeted audiences and appeals to who they like, right?
And,
so, you know, even in this era, what I always try to do is have an open mind. So I understand, like for Cody Rhodes, I understand who his target audience is. I understand why he gets pushed the way he does, and I know what he represents for the company. So I understand he's different than a Roman Reigns or somebody else in that particular spotlight because everybody has targeted audiences. You know, kids have audiences they look up to, and kids don't view the same things as adults do. So when you're an adult, you start to understand things more, and you might start to nitpick things a little bit more. Like, you know, this person not my cup of tea, this person my cup of tea. But I always try to tell people you just have to understand the values of different things. Like, you'll go back and like something from your childhood, but they could do the exact same thing in this era, and you'll say it's bad, not realizing that they've already done that, you know, previously. You just don't look
when
at
we look back and talk about the era that we enjoy the most, like we can sit there and be like, man, we love the 90s. We love Austin, Brett, Sean. There was some old head that's older than us being like, well, you weren't around for Bruno Sammartino. That was the era. It's always going to be a thing. You weren't there for the Four Horsemen in their prime.
Yeah.
And there's another thing about Brett that I really want to touch on before we move on from Brett.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lack of nostalgia for Brett for about 10 years because his career ended early, because he couldn't wrestle. Where guys like Sean got to come back and Taker got to keep wrestling, and guys used to come make appearances, this and that. Piper was making appearances, would wrestle, won tag titles with Ric Flair. Ric Flair was still wrestling. Brett never got that. So there's a generation of young kids that heard about Brett but never really saw Brett wrestle.
And can I just end it with this? Because and I won't get too much into it, but Malik knows where I'm going with this. Literally, the people that, you know, have those things to say or negative opinions, just for those who do not know, just remember, we don't have ladders without Bret Hart. We don't have Steve Austin and basically the entire Attitude Era because the screw job started it. So it's like, if you're gonna talk smack, just know your facts. That's all.
And I've interviewed Austin. He's like, I wouldn't be who I am without Bret. Yeah. Stone Cold never beat Bret Hart, but walked out of it a bigger star.
Yes. The double switch was crazy.
He beat him by DQ.
And the last thing about the nostalgia thing, and like how like kids and adults have a different perception of wrestling. After WrestleMania 33, or was it 32? One of them, I don't know, everyone was booing Roman. I jumped on the bandwagon for fun. I don't even hate Roman. Never disliked Roman. At that point, I already realized how this works. So I was like, oh, he's for the kids. But everybody in the arena is booing Roman. Monday Night Raw after Mania. So loud. Everyone's booing. I'm booing. I'm sitting in the shitty seats. I'm a boo. And I look over, and there's this little kid dressed up like Roman Reigns, has the glove on, doing this stuff. And he looks at either his mom or his aunt or whoever he is with, and he's like, why is everybody booing him? Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized I'm too old for this shit. I should just enjoy wrestling.
Well, the thing is, bro,
because it's not for me. I'm gonna like it regardless of the fact. So why am I sitting here booing this man? I don't care.
So that's a good point for you. So maybe to go to Justin, since you're Canadian, what do you the same question I asked Alan? What do you feel the disconnect is for Bret Hart, or the disrespect? Do you feel?
I think I said a lot of it, the lack of nostalgia for him. I think now he's getting there. Like the last 5-10 years, because of guys like CM Punk and FTR and a lot of people coming out of the closet being like, Bret inspired me. He's finally getting his flowers. I think there was a point where it was all about the guys that were active. Like I said, Sean, Taker, Flair, guys that was because Brett couldn't wrestle, he couldn't come back and do stuff. He had a better relationship with WWE, but he never had like a great relationship with WWE. I don't even think still he does. You know, like he comes once in a while, he doesn't come back. Yeah, like
he hates
comes,
Triple H.
yeah. Well, that's always going to be a thing, right? And there's always going to be a sour relationship there, regardless, right? So I think that's part of it. And then also, like everybody loves honesty until they get offended, then you become an asshole, and that's Bret Hart. Because
that part,
I've interviewed him multiple times myself, and you know, his family trusts me to know not to make him say things that are going to be taken the wrong way. But other journalists and reporters aren't like that. They want the headline. They want the YouTube video that's going to go viral. They're going to ask him about Bill Goldberg or something they know he's going to go into and be like, fuck that guy. Because they want the clicks and the things, and he's never going to lie. I'll tell you now, Bret Hart, I told you guys, I hung out with him one time, I was showing him wrestlers, and he will sit there and be like, this person's the shits. He's just not gonna lie.
That's who he is.
I mean, at one point he told his kids, "Why do you book the women if they're the shits?" The kid's like, "Well, we need women's wrestling in the card." Then he's like, "Find better women." Like, you know, like he's not gonna lie. And it's not that he hates women's wrestling. He likes Sasha Banks and Charlotte and other women's wrestlers. It's just he's just gonna be honest to whatever he's feeling in that particular moment. He will not lie to you. I'm telling you from like. I picked this guy up from the airport, brought him to a show, dropped him off. Like I spent time with this guy. He does not lie. Like,
do you guys think? So the big mystery. You think the screw job is a work, or you think it's real?
It was real.
It was real, but if it wasn't work, it's the greatest work of all fucking time.
Because you look at, I mean, some people brought up some valid points. Like, what's up with them? They just happen to have cameras, you know, backstage and all that stuff.
They just happen to be filming that.
Well,
at the same
you
time.
got to remember
microphones in the locker rooms. Like they just.
Well, you got to remember, Brett was shooting Wrestling with Shadows at that time.
That's what I'm saying. Is it a coincidence?
Coincidence. That's what he's trying to say.
I think coincidence. Like the whole. I don't believe it was work. I think the whole thing boiled down to, for whatever reason, Vince McMahon's lights just shut off. So let me see if I can get this right. The whole thing came down to Sean had made a comment, I think, at a San Jose show where Brett had found out that they were going to work together at Survivor Series. It's like, hey, I know we've had our problems. I just want you to know I don't mind putting you over. We'll do whatever you want. And then Sean says, you know, classically, I appreciate that, but I just want to let you know I wouldn't do the same thing for you. Where Vince screwed up. Where Vince absolutely screwed up, and I'll never understand this. You want to talk about things I'll never understand. Brett tells him at the Tulsa TV what happened. And Vince gets all hyped up like, what? I can't believe you said that. I'm going to go bring Sean in here, and I want you to repeat to me in front of us what you just told me. And then he completely went 180. Sean, we're putting the belt on you. Like, I'll never understand it because I'm like, had you nipped that in the bud, there wouldn't have been an issue.
That's crazy.
Maybe
yeah. So, you know, I mean, obviously it worked out, but it didn't have to get to that point.
I don't think it was a work. I don't, but I can understand all the reasons why people do. The filming was a major coincidence.
Yeah.
The creating the Mr. McMahon character that came out of that. Sending Brett off with sending Brett off with controversy. He was going to leave anyways. There was no idea of him staying there. He was already leaving. But then there's factors where it's like, well, he still doesn't like Triple H. He was, you know, it took him years to, make truce with Sean. He didn't talk to Vince until 2005. So all that makes it seem like, it wasn't. But I understand all the factors of why people. It was great television. It's 2025, and people will start talking about it today like it's such a big deal. And it was in 1997. Like that was a long time ago. Like we're closer to 20.
It's not even the
1997. Like
it's the most infamous moment in wrestling history, and it's not even the original Screwjob. It's just like we still talk about it.
It's I mean, like Justin said, if it's a work, it's the greatest work of all time because we'll never really know the answer. The only people who know are Vince, Brett, and Sean, and other people involved. But even if it was a work, if they were to come out and say that, how many people would even believe it? You know what I mean?
And if there's one thing I learned from old school wrestlers and like being around them and talking to them and interviewing them and just hearing stories from them is that like they're fucking all workers. They're worky even when they're not even meaning to work you because it's just in their nature.
Yeah.
Hogan. It's just they're workers to like. No, I don't want to say about the new age guys because I think most of the new age people grew up fans and then got into wrestling. That's why I'm like nowadays a lot of wrestlers unless they come from like NIL in the athletic world and never cared about wrestling, can't call as marks because half the wrestlers are marks now. But back in the day, the OG wrestlers, where kayfabe was a serious thing and it was a different generation, like they work till they die and they will work you till they die.
Yeah. Harley Race. Yeah.
Piper, Hogan,
Flair,
Savage, Brett Flair, like that generation, they will be workers till they die. They will sell you in whatever story they want you to know till they die.
Yeah, I feel like, there's also a couple of wrestlers you look back in the 90s too that you felt could have been world champion. Like you mentioned Owen Hart before. Owen Hart, I thought should have won at SummerSlam 94 in the steel cage match. I thought that was his time to really be submitted. Razor Ramon is one to me where I'm like, he put the title on Diesel, but
I was
not
the biggest
Ramon.
Razor fan.
Like Diesel got to be the world champion, but not Razor. Like Razor had more charisma, was better in the ring, had better character, like just had more swag to him. Like
even in WCW, never won that world title. It's depressing.
Yeah, the fact that Razor Ramon
they give it up Vince Russo.
Well, in listening to interviews and the sad part, and Malik, you can attest to this because we went to WrestleMania together. I was going to ask him about this to clarify because in a lot of his interviews, he was just like, I was never a mark. Like, I didn't really care.
He never wanted to. But you know what, to be fair, Owen said the same thing too. Owen's like, Owen was like, I'm just here to make money for my family. And like low-key has been on on talk shows and stuff saying he was going to retire by the time of the last.
Yeah, he wanted to be a firefighter.
Yeah, he's like, I was going to retire and go be a firefighter and spend time with my family in like 2003 or whenever his contract was going to eventually end. Like, a lot of like I said, a lot of these guys back in the days, like they're workers, but they weren't a mark for the title, a mark for the dream, a mark to main event WrestleMania. That's the generation we're in now, which is fine. I'm not dissing it. Just a lot of the wrestlers now grew up wrestling fans. Where back then, a lot of the wrestlers then knew about wrestling, but they were like bodybuilders or bouncers, or like it was a way to make money for them. How do we become a worker so I can make money and do this? Okay, cool. And that's the difference of generations. Like one guy, and people don't love him a lot, that is still in this business today, that is like literally just there for the money. He's like a guy like Brock Lesnar, but not everybody's Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, Mr. Perfect's another one. Like there are several wrestlers, but as I'll hark back on the point I made about Owen. Sometimes it was, it's different. Sometimes it was, top wrestlers or top management saying no. Other times it was just circumstance. Just like, this guy should get the title, but this guy's hot. There are quite a few guys that if Shawn hadn't gotten hot, maybe like Owen would have gotten a chance, but Shawn just struck the iron at the right time. And it was completely by accident. It's part of the business.
And then people weren't reliable sometimes because that was the drinking, the injury, the drug culture back then. So it was like you can't put the belt as reliable. And then a lot of wrestlers didn't want that pressure. If you hold that belt, you're Shawn fell under the pressure, lost his smile, right? Mm-hmm. Business wasn't doing good while he was the champion, so he lost his smile and
the Warrior became the belt. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Because it's a lot of pressure. You're the guy in charge to be the one to bring the house. You're the guy that's supposed to be selling the tickets. You're the guy that's supposed to be selling the most merch and whatnot if you're the top guy. It's a lot of pressure. Even Eddie said, in an interview after he won the world title, it was the pressure. It was maybe it was in his book. He was like, it was a lot of pressure. That's why I was okay. Like I got it, but I don't need it for a long time because it's a lot of pressure being the world champion, and some people don't want that.
It also would just depend on the superstar, because certain superstars get other passes that other people don't get, like Shawn and Hogan and all those guys. But those guys are valuable to your brand, so it's like it's a weird balance. It comes.
Say what you want about Hogan, but that guy was selling out houses week to week and was okay in that.
It's like the Brett and Shawn situation. It's a weird balance where like both guys are colliding. They seem like now they're at a point where they can't get along. Vince probably felt obligated to pick a side, and Shawn was younger and was better at the time, so. Of course, we're gonna have to go with him, and then Brett got forced out. But even though the Attitude Era struck at the right time, they got lucky because even though he picked Shawn retired like not too long after the screw.
And we're all humans. I feel like I've dealt with it a bit too. Like, who talks to you more? Who deals with you more? Who do you have a better relationship with? There could be two people in the independents right now, and if one of them talks to me more and built a better relationship with me, I'm probably going to post them more than the person that doesn't talk to me as much and has a better relationship with me. It's just it's a blind bias, but it's there. You know what I'm trying to say?
And the crazy thing from the stories I've been hearing, whether it be Triple H or whatnot, was if you go to the screw job, Vince had a better relationship with Brett. Like Shawn was the guy that would tell Vince, I ain't fucking saying it. F off, kiss my ass,
But
and
he
yet,
saw Sean as
but
the
he saw
future.
potential. Yeah,
He
Sean
saw
had more potential, yeah.
Brett as the guy that was. Brett was the guy. Brett had his time. Brett had his 5 years. You know what I mean? Even though it was mixed with
they were
a damn good
Luger.
5 years.
They were also at a
Yeah.
weird stage. Vince also had the mindset at the time, like once you hit a certain age, that was kind of like it for you. He did it with Hogan, he did it with
Savage,
Man, he did it with.
And you also got to take the money concept. He knew he could keep Sean at a certain price. Brett wanted to get paid. If you want to get paid that much, go to WCW.
Well, here's a good business practice. Don't offer a $20 million contract a 20-year, $20 million contract that you can't freaking honor when you're taking loans just to make payroll. Just a thought.
Because you got to remember the state the WWF was in 95, 96 after the trial. They weren't financially great, right? So that's why they couldn't keep Hall. They couldn't keep Nash. That's why Hogan went to WCW to get a better paycheck. Like
guaranteed,
they couldn't afford to keep people. Who knows? Maybe they didn't want Savage to wrestle because if Savage was a full-time wrestler, they had to pay him more. Who knows the financial circumstances behind a lot of this stuff, right? Like,
is there a wrestler in the 90s that had a lot of hype that maybe you didn't care for? Maybe you didn't understand it. Maybe you didn't connect with that person. Maybe it's somebody you just couldn't get behind.
Well,
Shane Douglas,
Luger.
Y'all know, okay.
But that's a lie. I like Luger in WCW because I just thought he was jacked.
Now, as I said, I'm more of a technical, satirical type guy when it comes to wrestling, especially in that era. And I know I might get a couple of eye rolls, but Ric Flair. And the reason I say that is because while he could talk, if you look at the majority, because he had some bangers in the 90s, but most of his matches were the same. Like, one of the biggest knocks I will always have against Ric Flair is you wrestled Macho Man Randy Savage multiple times. This is the same Randy Savage, mind you, who had like a whole sheet of yellow notepad paper of moves for the Steamboat match in '87. Like, this is how much he understood in-ring psychology, and all of your matches are the same. So I didn't get it. I kind of get it now, but I didn't get it growing up. Like, what's so special? Okay, he talks a lot of shit. He gets beat up in the ring, and then he just walks away. Like, okay. Like, I just didn't get it. In the 90s. In the 80s, that's different. 90s. In the 90s, I just did not understand.
If anything, his matches in the 2000s were more the same. With 90s.
It's because then he had a formula,
Yeah.
I liked Ric Flair. In the 90s, but also I'm a big promo character guy, and I just love the shit he did. Like the elbow.
I like everything. If you're good at everything, I like you.
There's some people I just
sorry. You can be a great technical wrestler, but if you have no personality, I don't fucking care about Lance Storm. I do not care. I fucking do not like Lance Storm in any way. Like, the nigga, you're boring. Get off my screen.
There were some. I'm trying to think.
I didn't expect that.
I didn't care about. I didn't. Like, I like him now and I appreciate him now, but I didn't give a rat's ass about Alex Wright in the 90s. He used to annoy me.
Alex
Wright. I like him now. You know what I'm trying to say?
I can see that. I
didn't really care for Canyon a lot.
Whoa,
I didn't care for
Canyon's a great wrestler. That's kind of crazy.
I didn't care for Horace Hogan.
No one cared for Horace Hogan.
Nobody cared for Horace Hogan.
I'm trying to think of the Attitude Era. There's a bunch of people in the Attitude Era too. I was just kind of like Hardcore Holly didn't really do anything for me. I liked Crash. There's more mid card guys who I'm just like whatever about. I can't put my finger on it. I liked Ahmed though. I had an Ahmed face. I liked Farouk. I liked The Nation. I liked The Godfather. I love D'Lo Brown as my head shaking shit.
He was good.
I'm trying to think of but there was certainly guys. Jeff Jarrett used to piss the shit out of me.
But he can
but now looking back, I'm like, great heel. But at the time, go ahead. I don't know. Just go right ahead.
I think my the sour taste in my mouth I had for Jeff Jarrett was I didn't care for the shit at the end with WCW, but then I didn't really pay attention to him into the WWF until I went back. Ironically, it's on YouTube, but it's not on an official channel. I watched In Your House 3. That match he had with Shawn Michaels when he had the roadie Jesse James as his manager. I was like, oh.
No, he's a
good
as
an adult with adult eyes, he's great.
That match made me see him in a different light where I had to go back and look because he would have probably been another answer, but I had to go back and look like, Oh, you were okay. You were that guy.
I never cared for Mabel, but I liked Viscera.
All right, Jeff Jarrett was a good worker. His character was just so insufferable, and he was way too
Yeah.
pushed. In WCW, he gave me nothing. He gave off mega mid Carter, but was feuding with Hogan and Sting. Like, you're not on their level. Why are you winning the world title? Other than Vince Russo's your friend. Like,
Shane
Best
Douglas
thing he
pissed
did-
me off too. I didn't get the Shane Douglas hype because I didn't grow up on ECW.
I hate him. I cannot stand.
So even when he showed up in WCW later, I'm like, why is this guy?
You had a
so,
400-day title reign, and like you had 2 good matches.
I loved all the Radicals. I loved Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, and I loved all those guys.
Oh yeah,
Those are
Malenko, one of the more slept on guys, but that goes back to James's point. Didn't have much personality, but
I
top
liked
5
him better than
technical
Lance Storm. I don't know. He was kind of funny.
He had some funny moments.
Double 07 was funny as shit.
I mean, the greatest thing Dean Malenko did, I forget the pay-per-view, but when he dressed up as Cyclope
Super Brawl.
trap
Yeah.
Super Brawl
Yeah.
to trap Jericho in the ring to win the cruiserweight title after he had talked all that shit about his late dad Boris, who died in '94. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Is there a bad '90s gimmick that you actually liked? Guilty pleasure.
Hey, listen,
This
man.
is probably a lot.
Malik, there's nothing bad about the greatest wrestler of all time, the Repo Man. There's nothing bad, so at all. There's nothing. He's the greatest wrestler of all time. All right, the Repo Man is the greatest wrestler of all time. He's on Royal Rumble '92 and WrestleMania 17.
Where do you put Repo Man next to like the Renegade though? Like,
No, get Renegade on my face.
I'm trying to think.
Very
One,
dark.
like you said, a
Wrestling.
gimmick that was bad.
A bad gimmick.
because it was a.
I'm not gonna lie. For me, I don't know what it was, but I like Mortis, bro.
I like
You know what?
I like Mortis and all that whole
Yeah,
situation.
Mortis. I like the look, the presentation.
I like Glacier.
I think only because it's just coming back to me. Only because we talked about this. There was a question we had on one of your previous episodes. You had me on here. As bad as the gimmick, and it wasn't his fault. It was just how racially insensitive it was. But I am a big fan of Kamala. I am a big fan of Kamala, even though I like the concept of it. But then I look at it as a black man with a big belly and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, you made that work, even though you probably shouldn't have been in that position.
It's
But
crazy.
you made that work.
The beginning of the '90s looks nothing like the end of the '90s.
I mean,
Not to say
fun
that.
fact.
Early
Fact.
'90s WCW.
Fun
was like
fact.
that.
Kamala is the first wrestler in WWE history to get sealed in a coffin. Fun fact.
I'm trying to remember of all the occupational gimmicks, and I can't. Like, I'm like, okay, there's Duke the Dumpster. There's
Duke the Dumpster,
Sean,
the Goon.
Sean, yeah, the Goon. Sean, Shane
Skip,
was the
Skip the Body Donnas. Good lord.
Body Donnas.
Hey, but Repo Man was the goat.
Skinner.
Skinner. That
The
might be
Stalker.
one.
Do you remember Barry Windham as a stalker?
Oh my god.
What was
Terry Gordy
Papa
as
Shango?
Terry
The
Gordy was the
executioner.
executioner.
Somebody said, did anybody touch up on Diesel and Mabel from SummerSlam '97?
Can I tell you my
95.
my favorite gimmicks that were horrible was
Or 95. I don't know what's
fake Diesel, fake Razor. Top two.
Oh God, Glenn Jacobs. His second role in WWE, Glenn Jacobs.
We had a fake
Diesel.
Diesel, we had a fake Razor, we had a fake Sting. We were just rolling out with the fake
Isaac
Sting.
Yankem DDS. Let me not forget him.
Yeah.
I see the dentist version. Yeah, '95 the overall probably maybe the worst year in WWE for sure. Even WCW, you look at it. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, I ranted about Uncensored earlier.
I met El Grande Americano this past weekend, and I asked him if he knew the Patriot, but he said he didn't.
Oh God, poor R.I.P. Del Wilkes. Let me respond to what you said, Malik, because this is what I will always say about the new generation era when it pertains to WWE. Now, yes, 1995, booking wise, pay-per-view wise, across the board, might be the worst in history, worst WrestleMania, in my opinion. But the one thing I will defend about that year, and I will defend about that era, is it is the greatest era at that time for development. You got to remember, in this same year, Steve Austin was brought in, Triple H was brought in. The next year, we get The Rock. And by the time the Attitude Era started, all three of those guys were pretty much ready to go. So while it was bad, it was the greatest era for development. the development of your star, even if they left, Razor, Diesel, Yokozuna before that, but then you get those three, and then those three became the faces of your next era, which paid off all the bills and sets you forward. So 95 was a bad year.
I don't even know what Rock's original gimmick was, but that sucked too.
Rocky Maivia.
No, but like the blue chipper, like what was his actual character? Like
his character was that he was Rocky Maivia.
That's crazy.
No. When he came out to the ring the first time, Jim Ross said he's a blue chip. He's gonna be somebody.
Yeah.
The Sultan, Rikishi, when he was the Sultan, that was some good stuff.
That shit. Oh my god.
Quang, remember Quang?
I do remember Quang.
What's crazy about
Max Moon. Aldo Montoya. I used to think Aldo Montoya was cool. His little yellow getup and shit.
What's crazy about Rock and Austin, because I've heard stories and stuff about this, is that so Vince always wanted The Rock to be like the next guy. Like he's always had ideas of people that he liked and people that he looked at as somebody that could be money makers and everything. He always wanted The Rock to be one of the next big stars and that next guy. Austin was never looked at as the same when he first came in. He was the ringmaster, and he never really saw any potential into Steve Austin until the popularity started to increase. And then the Austin 316 promo at King of the Ring and shit. So it's like, it was kind of undeniable at that point. Like, how can we not capitalize on this where we could still make that guy a big star? But now we got this guy too, and we could have him at the same time. Like, how can we not capitalize on that opportunity? We'd be stupid not to. So, the 90s were always, 95 and 96 were years of developmental for certain people, yes. But when you look at the overall quality, man, some of the worst people you get. King of the Ring is one of the worst shows ever. King of the Ring 95. Uncensored is one of the worst shows. WrestleMania that year, some people say is the worst WrestleMania of all time. The Royal Rumble match in general, the lack of aura in that match is terrible. Like all around, just bad year, bad shows, bad gimmicks, bad stories. Like
what people don't talk about a lot either, like the wrestling, the attitude era on a weekly basis wasn't great.
No,
the stories and the characters are over. But if you try to go walk a Raw in the attitude era, like if you're like a wrestling guy, that shit's like 2-minute matches just so they can make commercial
until
break.
2000, the wrestling was really good, but before that,
I'm talking 98, 99 was just the Rock.
It's pretty much, if you go back and look at a lot of the attitude era matches, most of them like are brawling out in the crowd, fighting on the entrance ramp, some of them even in a DQ. It was just, I feel like the attitude era had such pop culture attached to it. It was very chaotic. People loved the chaos. They loved
Vince Russo had that whole like finish a match before the commercial break. Like the matches shouldn't go through commercial breaks, so you get these really short matches that are like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes long, and like there was really no you just saw them enter, people pop at the entrances, maybe there's some shenanigans at the end, you knew the winner, but everything in between didn't matter. It was just stuff, punches, kicks, this move, like it was weird.
Also, and like during the attitude era, it was a time frame where like everybody was pretty much over on the roster. People just loved the characters. You look at Val Venus, The Godfather, obviously Austin Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley, Vince McMahon. It really didn't matter. I feel like how
Chainsaw Charlie.
Yeah, and it really didn't matter how great the matches were. I felt for people, it was more so they connected with what the characters in the audience, one at the time. That's why I always look at Goldberg as an example. Like people who loved Goldberg never cared that he lacked, and his ability to be good in the ring. They loved the presentation of what he was, his entrance, his
hype. The hype. It was the hype, dude.
Yeah.
He had a presentation that was so real, and it had so much aura to it, and had so much hype. Like
I saw a clip that was so relatable. It was Randy Orton. I forget what it was on. It was one of the network specials. It was like, dude, we didn't give a shit that Goldberg can wrestle. We just get hyped to see him drink some beers and see him spear some motherfuckers. That's all
Well, and I always
presentation.
I always felt bad for Goldberg because I felt like when he came up, like that 98, I call it the year of the bald man because that's the year that Austin won his first title too. But I felt like WCW was already dead after the debacle of Starrcade 97. Like,
it was going down. Can I tell you what fucked WCW for me, and it's still a problem in today's era? This fucking 3-hour shows. They went to a 3-hour Nitro,
that did it.
That shit was tough, man. Because you had so much filler. Like the NWO music would hit, you'd get hyped, and like Virgil would walk out, and you're like, "Fuck!" Like, you know what I mean?
My dad always used to tell me, as long as you have a big man, you have an audience. One of the biggest mistakes they made, they let Paul White go. the Giant. And then he shows up at what was it, St. Valentine's Day Massacre in that Vince Austin match. If Austin wins, he gets to face The Rock at WrestleMania. That was another big mistake they made.
What were you gonna say?
I will say this. I feel like Goldberg actually helped. Like, I don't think they weren't. That was definitely the first big misfire at Starrcade '97. We can get into that in a little bit, but I think that Goldberg, and also a kind of underrated part, Goldberg and the Wolfpack were like really keeping the show afloat because they were still winning. They were still winning like
In
Raws.
'98.
They're still winning Mondays until like October when guess what the last Nitro they ever won was October of 1998 after Halloween Havoc. You want to know why they won that Monday night?
Because the pay-per-view cut off.
Because the pay-per-view cut off. So they
cut
showed
off.
DDP and Goldberg in full the next night for free.
Wow.
The last thing
I
I want to say about I don't know how much longer we're going about the '90s and what made it different is the fact that it was the last genuine, like it existed, but it was the last genuine era of like not everybody on the internet. Like it was like dial-up internet. If you were on it, you were on it. If you weren't, you weren't. You knew and learned things through the magazines, and if you were old enough, you maybe did the dirt sheet. I used to secretly call the collect number and get the rumors and stuff that way from Mean Gene or from the Yellow Pages.
190999.
Yeah. It was the last. It was the last era of no internet, and I think what happens today and what's happened in the last 20 years is we will watch something, we'll enjoy it, we'll read responses on the internet, and it'll mix with our original perception of things because we're like, oh yeah, that's true. Like how many times in the '90s, like I joked around about Chainsaw Charlie and the Executioner and Terry Gordy, like, yo, how mad are people that Mariah May is no longer Mariah May and she's Blake Monroe? How mad are people when someone goes from one company to the other and they change their name and stuff? We had wrestlers hopping back and forth. Like nobody was like, wow, stunning Steve Austin's the ringmaster. They probably did, but we didn't fucking know, and it didn't affect us watching it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I hear you.
Cactus Jack is Mankind. No, we just went with it, right?
You love, yeah.
We went with it because we did back in those days because there's nowhere to complain besides to our actual friends. You know what I mean? Like, and I think the internet, as much as it's helped wrestling, it's made wrestling a bigger thing. Like we get to do things like this because of it. It's also kind of fucked wrestling up because it's given people an outlet to come on there and say this sucks, that sucks. Well, let me find out what's going to happen before it happens. And I find that because there's so many times in the last 10 years because I stopped reading dirt sheets and I tried to not. When I started my stuff on Instagram, there wasn't a lot of news Instagram pages in 2014. That started in the last 5 years, and now there's all the news Instagram pages. All the news was on Twitter, or Reddit. It wasn't on Instagram. I was able to avoid it. Now I can't avoid it. But I remember moments where I'd pop and I'd be like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming. And people in my comment section, well, Dave Meltzer said this was going to happen like a week ago. Like, how did you not know? I'm not looking for that fucking information. I don't want to know things. I like to genuinely be surprised. I'm happy that nowhere was it written that fucking Brock Lesnar was in talks with WWE again. He might be coming back and he just showed up. I'm happy that I sat there and thought that Seth was actually still fucking hurt. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to get worked because it makes wrestling still enjoyable to me. When you want to know everything and you want to know everything behind the curtain, you're just ruining it for yourself. You are no longer a spectator. You are now you want to be an insider. And if you want to be an insider, then you can't really have opinions because you want to know everything. I just, you know what I mean? Like if Cross and Scarlett are gone, I don't want to know if they're in conversations with TNA or AEW. Some shit. I just want them to fucking show up, you know? And if this is a work and they show up on Raw tomorrow night through the crowd or some shit, I just want it to be a surprise. And you know what I mean? Like that's what made the 90s so great. Imagine we sat in the 90s and we heard like, oh, Sting's backstage today. He might drop from the rafters. Like, no, he just did it and it was cool. You know? Oh,
and you never knew. And you never knew when it was.
Never knew.
We want Sting. We want Sting.
And that was the beauty of the 90s, right? I didn't know the Executioner was Terry Gordy until I became an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know these things. I didn't know
Max Moan was Conan.
I didn't know the Disciple was Brutus the Barber fucking Beefcake for so long.
Bro,
all he did was grow a beard.
Dude, because he was so ripped. I was like, I figured it out one night. I was watching
it. Piper said, "And your barber," and I was like, "What?"
I didn't realize it until
Warrior said it, not Piper. Warrior said that.
It was the match. It was the Nitro after Savage beat Sting at Spring Stampede, where it was Hogan Savage, and like the angle where he hit the Apocalypse and his his beard kind of fell, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Ed Leslie. That's Brutus."
Yeah, but if we had the internet, we would have known already. You would have been like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
screw
yeah.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake." I thought the Disciple was a whole new character, and I was down with it. You know what I mean? Like,
Are there some wrestlers in today's era that you feel would do really good back in the 90s? You know, whatever time frame, early 90s, mid 90s.
CM Punk in the Attitude Era.
CM Punk, yeah, Attitude Era, ECW.
CM Punk in the Attitude Era would have been.
I think
Cody
Roman
in
would.
Cody in the Golden Era for sure.
Yeah, I think Roman Cody in the early '90s would have been a big deal.
Hangman Adam Page in WCW.
Seth would have done great in the Attitude Era with his little laughing gimmick and everything.
Yeah, Hangman Adam Page in WCW. Yeah.
Hangman in WCW. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Seth could work in WWF or WCW. Seth is great character wise.
Hangman too, but yeah.
Seth could go either way. I feel like Seth could go either way.
Even Punk and OG ECW would have been cool.
Yeah.
I think CM Punk to me would be the top tier answer for me personally, because I think he would be great in ECW during that mid 90s with Raven, Tommy Dreamer, and Sabu and Rob Van Dam, and Mick Foley when he was Cactus Jack. Like, he would be really good in ECW. The Attitude Era, the stuff he could do with Stone Cold, Vince McMahon, The Rock, Triple H, Chris Jericho when he moved over, like the promo battles that they could have, the matches, like he would have been somebody that I feel like would have pushed the edge so far. I think he could have been up there with Steve Austin, like popularity wise, and somebody who pushes the edge extremely far. Like Steve Austin pushed the edge far, but he did it to a gimmick standard where it was good for the product. I feel like CM Punk would have done it where it was like breaking kayfabe, where it was like, I don't think he's supposed to be talking that way. I don't think he's supposed to be doing that. He would have been like the anti-authority guy. He would have been the rebel.
Kind of like Pillman.
Yeah.
Good job, Mr. Booker, man.
MJF was built for the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh God.
MJF was built for the 90s. He would have been the top heel in the 90s.
Put MJF in a feud. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, put MJF in the feud with who?
Put MJF in a feud with Piper.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Beautiful.
MJF Austin,
Money.
MJF Rock, MJF Hogan. Like, MJF was built for that era. And then also it was the era of the pretty women. So like Maxine Dupree, Blake Monroe. Like, you know what I mean? Like all these like more sexualized women probably would. Tony Storm would have been great in the Attitude Era 90s with this character, right?
Yep. Liv. Yeah.
Liv, like any of like the super 90s attractive looking blonde girls probably would have worked in the 90s.
All right, so next, just a little fun game for everybody to engage in. I'm gonna name just 10 random wrestlers from the 90s, and then you can give me like a short sentence of how impactful they are, or you could just give a one-word answer, like your personal preference or opinion on what they meant to the 90s. So you can say overrated, underrated, underappreciated, legendary, impactful, whatever one word you want to throw out there. So we'll just keep it at that, actually. I'm going to name 10 random wrestlers from the 90s, and you just give a one-word answer to what you think they meant to the 90s. Like I said, it could be overrated, it could be underrated, it could be impactful, it could be inspiration, it could be underappreciated, whatever one word you feel like stands out attached to these wrestlers. And then we'll go in order. We'll have Justin go first, then James, and then Alan. So we'll just continue to order. So one word answer. We'll start off with Goldberg.
Hype.
Aura.
I would say massive.
Mick Foley.
Can I say 2 words or do I have to say 1 word?
You can say 2 if you have to.
Hardcore legend.
Underrated Mike.
Risk taker.
Bret Hart.
I don't know who else are you gonna say, but I'm just leaning towards GOAT.
Overhated.
Legendary.
Kevin Nash.
Financially smart.
Smartest worker.
Yeah. Smart might probably just be the word.
Serviceable.
Fair.
Sting.
Icon.
Yeah, legendary.
Flag bearer.
Yes, sir.
Franchise would have been a good one too.
Franchise, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Lex Luger.
Overrated.
Did the best he could.
Interesting. I'll be nice.
And I say what you want to say.
No, I'll switch it. Circumstances. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Gold Dust.
Ooh.
Underappreciated.
Underrated.
Passionate.
The Rock.
Polarizing.
Charismatic.
I would say The Rock. If I were to describe in one word, in this, it would be. I got to think about this one. He is. You know what? I'm just gonna. I'll say great. I'll say great.
You know, he's great. I wasn't a Rock fan till I liked his promos against it, but 2000, 2003 was my peak Rock fandom. It wasn't in the 90s.
Or promos. How about that?
Yeah,
I
promos.
I was more of a Rock guy than Austin guy.
Oh,
For me. Kane.
Honestly, I don't know. Honestly, Kane, Glenn Jacobs, everything you went through in the 90s, Fake Diesel, Isaac Yankem, honestly, just hard worker. Honest hard worker.
Underutilized.
Patient.
Yeah, that's probably a better word. Very patient. Resilient. Dedicated. Committed. Yeah. Persistent.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Good in small doses.
Scumbag.
Oh,
Good Lord.
missed opportunity.
Oh, missed opportunity. Okay. I'll throw out two more just so they can be on here because I know some people are probably gonna be like, where is this person at? Undertaker.
Jim Ross used to always say it, but the conscience of the WWE, he's the conscience. Through it all, he was there the entire time and after and before. So, conscience.
Probably GOAT.
Soul. The soul.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Brief description. There was some, I don't know what the fuck it was. It was a DVD or something, and it was on the Attitude Era. And these idiots must have been young or something. They put Rock front and center and Austin to the side, when honestly Austin should have been front and fucking center.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Austin is the Attitude Era. Austin was peak.
Savior. Save the company.
He did.
Can of whoop ass.
That's a good one. Can of whoop ass is a good one. You said to go back to Warrior. You said missed opportunity. What you mean by that?
So, I am always of the belief that his WWE title reign, albeit how we could talk about his performance in the match, his WWE title reign, I don't want to say sabotaged, but it was very poorly booked in a sense that when you are the top babyface, you need to be working with the top heel. SummerSlam 1990 was the biggest missed opportunity because they could have had him working with Earthquake, and they had him working with Rick Rude, who he basically worked with all of 1989. So while Rick Rude was a great worker, you missed an opportunity to transcend the Ultimate Warrior to face guys, bigger heels, to try to broaden his brand better. Now, if he screwed it up after that, that'd have been on him. But they put him with Rick Rude. The match turned out to be mid, and there was really no turning back on. So the whole point of Warrior even getting the title was he was supposed to supersede Hulk Hogan. Well, if you're going to supersede Hulk Hogan, or at least if you're going to attempt to, then you need to put him in positions to do so and I felt like booking at that time failed to do so. That's what I mean by
mistakes. I think all of Warrior's flaws were Warrior's fault.
No.
Yes.
What I mean is, the flaws are the flaws. I'm saying book him in the best position possible. If his flaws still screw it up, that's his fault.
You're not wrong about the booking part, but like I
Yeah.
feel like they handed him opportunity after opportunity. They brought him back in '96. He no-showed. They brought him back in '92. He wanted a high. He held up Vince for money. You know what I mean? Like
Well, 92 he got fired. 96 actually Vince kind of screwed him over. The no-show was because he talks about this in his
dad's funeral or something, or I don't know.
Well, no, that was what happened was when he came back. I don't know if you remember this, but you remember how he had his own comic book?
Yeah.
They promoted it on fucking TV every week. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was part of it. But there was something with the intellectual property where feel the power and always believe. So always believe was supposed to be his intellectual property, and then feel the power, which the NFL has now, was WWE. And then Vince at a trade show had all of WWE's merchandise on his side, and that's what that was about. So
and then like the multiple stories you read in books and heard on podcasts, like Brett really went into like how like Warrior was never good with the Make-A-Wish kids and would kind of brush.
There's that classic story.
Like it's just personality, right?
Yeah,
you gotta be a politicker to an extent if you're in the wrestling business.
Yeah,
and you have to have social skills. You can't be anti-social and be successful. He had the look, he had the hype, he had the entrance, he had the adrenaline.
That's about it.
He wasn't a sociable person. People didn't like him. He didn't get along. Mark Miro said in his book at the end of the book, which is really good, he's like his biggest mistake in the WWF was he brought his wife and he never really made relationships with the boys. He was always with his wife.
He had his own locker room.
Yeah, so he's like, if I built a relationship with the boys, maybe I would have had a different experience here. But I brought my wife. My wife outshined me. He admits that. She became a bigger star than I did, and I didn't have no relationship with the guys. They didn't like me because I just had a guaranteed contract and brought my wife in here. Sometimes sometimes wrestling you have to play the game at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and because of how much, because I think what's his name, Jim Cornette talked about. He's like, he put him over because he, Vince in his life wished he could be Mr. Olympian. I think that was a big part of it too, where Vince coddled him a lot, kind of like he did with Hogan. There's that classic incident. I think he was at an airport and some kid asked him for an autograph and he chewed him out. And come to find out, the kid's father was like a higher up in WWE or with like a high sponsoring company or something like that.
And we saw that video of Warrior apologizing.
Yeah, and he couldn't
even
get that right.
It was an A&E documentary. I remember.
But to clarify, that's what I meant.
What about was there a superstar in the 90s that you thought for sure this guy's going to be a big star, and it turned out just fumbled, maybe for booking or maybe their own personal stuff? Looking back at the 90s now, if I would have watched it in real time, I would have thought Ken Shamrock would have been like somebody they would have used a lot better.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
That would have been like WWF champion. He was having matches with The Rock and Steve Austin and, feuds with their top stars, but, never really put him in the position to really level him up as somebody that could be like the MMA badass guy that could level up to be one of their biggest, main event guys. I'm not saying he would have been like Rock Austin type level, but I mean, Ken Shamrock, bro, was like legit badass. You know what I mean?
Most of the guys I'm thinking about did end up getting their flowers in the 2000s, like Jericho and Guerrero and he who shall not be named.
Daniel Bryan,
I don't know.
Who do you want to say?
So I have two answers. My first one would be Raven, obviously, and WCW. They kept putting him in the upper echelon. He was fighting DDP. He had a match with Goldberg. They kept, but like, I don't know, they were not committed to making him a main eventer, even though he showed that, again, even on shit shows like Fall Brawl 98, he could still have like great matches. This guy could go in the ring, he could talk. He was a great character worker. He did everything, and they just never, I don't know if Bischoff never liked him or just didn't see him as upper than the mid card, but he was a guy that could have 100% just been a main event guy, especially against like guys like the younger guys like Booker T and all that, and Steiner, So
there was a segment on WCW you can find on YouTube where like it was Raven in the ring for some reason, maybe Savage like attacked someone before or something, and there was like a standoff between Raven and Savage, and the crowd was loud.
Loud.
They like
Yeah, I
wanted to
remember that.
see it. It never led to nothing. They didn't even have a match, but like there was
that's what I'm
something there
saying.
that showed that, like, to your point, they put him near the upper echelons all the time and tested it, and it always worked. But like
They just never were committed to it. I don't know
yeah.
why. It like I don't know why. Because again, he like again one of Goldberg's good matches. It was with Raven because Raven put him over the same way Hogan put him over. Raven made him look like $1,000,000. Raven again. They let Raven have a great feud with DDP. He beat DDP, and DDP was like having matches with Hogan and all these people and Kurt Hennig and Flair and Savage last year. So it's insane. So and my second answer would be. This one is a little bit out there. I'm gonna say X-Pac. The reason I say X-Pac is because in like 1, great in ring, 2, stupid over, and 3, he's a good mic. He's like good in the ring and good on the mic. And the thing for me is that in '99, before the heel turn, he was like stupid over and like he was getting pops. And maybe it's because everyone in the Attitude Era was over, but like he was like his storyline with Kane really really like put him over as like a mega babyface. I feel like him turning heel and then overdoing that fucking feud forever, because that feud started in like December, like not even December, like September, like no, November of '99, and didn't end until like March of 2000, April or March of 2000. That feud with Kane went on for too long, and that led to a lot of resentment. That led to a lot of X-Pac heat. I feel like if X-Pac stayed a babyface and like, because again, he was like getting like upper, because again, like a great example would be like No Mercy '99 or Unforgiven '99, where he's in there, they're giving him upper echelon stuff. He's in there with Undertaker, he's in there with Steve Austin, he's in there with The Rock. They're giving him this upper echelon stuff, and it was working. Like you said, they were cheering for him. If he would have stayed a mega babyface into the 2000s, I think they could have made him like a perennial occasional main eventer guy, maybe even give him like a transitional world title reign. That's how good he was, I think, and that's how over he was. That to me, I feel like if they didn't do that stupid ass heel turn because they wanted to reform DX, I feel like he could have been like even bigger.
Everybody loved X-Pac because if we were kids, he seemed small and he seemed like a kid like us. He had a goatee and everything, but it just seemed like X-Pac was someone you could attain to be like. But to your point, there were guys that were really popular in the late '90s that didn't transcend into the 2000s. And another person like X-Pac, like someone that kind of peaked in the '90s, was Diamond Dallas Page. Like he got that huge pop when he revealed himself as a stalker, but everything from there went downhill. But Page was the man, and it never continued into the 2000s, and it kind of sucks.
Because and then Taker buried him.
I don't know if you guys know this, but like during the Click era, the Click times, like when a new wrestler would come in and do like a test match, it would be with Kid, and and then he'd come back through the curtain and he would either give a thumbs up or he'd give a thumbs down. Like that's how much they trusted him. I've got 2, both WWF, both same era, both similar stories. I'm gonna go with Brian Crush Adams, and I'm gonna go with Tatanka. Crush simply because I felt like for his size and how athletic he was, I was like, oh wow, he gets it. It's like, even we talked about WrestleMania 9 earlier, like even that match he had with Doink, like I loved how, oh yeah, this guy can actually move. He had a banger with Shawn Michaels at the King of the Ring for the IC. Savage. Once they turned him heel and then that Savage thing ended, they really didn't have anything else for him. Facts. And I'm like, dude, like literally, Yokozuna is no longer champion. He's in tags. Like, you've got Fuji. If you need to move him away, like you've got something here. And then Tatanka is probably even more egregious. Like, he was undefeated this was the streak before Goldberg. I mean, even though we weren't counting, he loses to Ludwig Borga, which some would probably argue would be another answer if you watched his Dark Side of the Ring, which was actually a pretty good episode. And then they turn him heel, and then they put him in the $1 Million Corporation. And I'm like, how do you not see what you had? And he was doing it with his own culture. People were actually getting with that. So those are 2 where it's like, I felt like they had it. I actually met Tatanka in 2022. We had a very long conversation. It was a very good one. But those are 2, when I look back, I'm like, you had 2 guys that if you had just built them up right, And Tatanka, I would argue, it's the more egregious one because I know, Fresh eventually ran into some drug problems. They brought him back in '96, and then I think he ended up in WCW at one point. But by
I
that
mentioned
point,
I liked Chronic. I thought Chronic had potential.
yeah.
Brian had him
So
as a
yeah,
crush.
those are two guys. Yeah, those are two guys where
Brad
I was
Clark.
like, Vince, if you had just had your head on straight, you had two pieces of gold there, and you squandered.
And as a kid, I always loved Bam Bam Bigelow. It just sucks how that all worked out for him.
He was
Yeah.
great. He was great.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels killed his career.
Yeah, I was a Bam Bam guy.
WrestleMania 11 killed his.
Yeah.
When you lose to an NFL Hall of Famer that had never been in the ring and all he did was tackle you from the second rope for 10 minutes, yeah, there's no coming back.
No.
They could have rebounded from that too.
No. The thing is, like that match actually got him a lot of like good press backstage. That's like Vince was gonna trust him to be a main eventer. That's the thing. People were praising him so much backstage, and Shawn Michaels did not like that at all. So
I didn't know that. Okay,
he was in at
It was a
King of the
click
Ring
thing.
95,
The click buried him.
At King of the Ring '95,
Makes
he was like in the main. He was literally main eventing a pay per view.
yeah.
Diesel,
Him and Tatanka
and
versus
and Shawn Michaels
him and
didn't
Diesel.
like the fact that everyone was praising Bam Bam, so he kept getting in Vince's ear, and eventually that led to like Bam Bam getting his like push ended and getting fired, and going he had to go.
Good old selfish HBK, from that time frame.
Yeah, he turned into a baby face, and then gave Goldust his first his second pay per view win at the Survivor Series.
Who was better, Bam Bam or Vader?
Vader.
Vader.
I think Vader has a little bit more than Bam Bam. Not that Bam Bam didn't. I just felt like Vader just had that extra oomph that promoters in that era were like, we're gonna put you at the top of the card. Like he was brought into the WWF to be the top heel, and then Shawn, ironically enough, buried him too.
If this was 2K and you told me to draft a roster, I'd probably draft Bam Bam.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Not a bad answer.
I feel like Vader was sick, but I don't know. Vader was more of a stiff, hard. I think Bam Bam knew how to work.
Vader definitely.
Yeah.
I think Bam Bam's definitely easier to work with. Vader is extremely rough in the ring.
I feel like with Vader, you have to have a Vader style match. With Bam Bam, you'll wrestle.
I also think with Vader too, you got to be guys like Mick Foley. You got to be psychotic, where like you like that style. You want to be hit hard. You want to be because you do the same thing. You know what I mean? So
we saw it happen. Like Vader only works when Vader's dominant.
I think Vader was more believable too for his character. Like he was somebody who I felt was more destructive. Like that guy.
I know. I harped on Ric Flair in the '90s, but one of his greatest matches of his career, Starrcade '93.
With Vader, yeah, we saw.
Oh yeah, that match, and mind you, Flair's a babyface, which is a rare feat. But
he's a great baby too.
Yeah, Flair gave it to him. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
they were I feel like they were interchangeable too. They both could do like moonsaults, and like people for their size, they both could do innovative things. So it just
Did you guys actually like rock with the Giant in the '90s?
Big Show?
Did.
Like Paul White?
Oh yeah. I
like Vader. I like Bam Bam. Big Show was, I don't know, he was okay. Andre, I did like Andre. Andre.
It's weird because I liked him in WCW, and then the moment he came to WWF, it didn't hit.
Obviously was terrible. So nobody.
One of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. And some could probably put it on the level of a WrestleMania 9, but Halloween Havoc 95 in Detroit. That whole build-up, and then he falls off the roof at Covo Hall. He comes back. WCW had a bad habit at that time of recycling old WWE storylines. So this one is...
They tried to play him as Andre's kid. That was wrong.
Yeah. I didn't like that. My dad...
Let's talk about it. I hated the Dungeon of Doom, okay?
I love the concept. I didn't like all the guys they picked. But what I appreciated about that storyline was, okay, you guys are trying to copy. You basically are trying to copy 1988. Hogan gets screwed over by the Giant, and then Savage ends up winning the title in. Very similar to what happened in '95. What I appreciated, though, was we got a couple of rarities. Obviously, that incident, but this is one of the very rare pay-per-views where
we got the Yeti.
We got, that kind of ruined it. But It was one of the rare main events where when we went off air, there was no real absolution, and the babyface got his ass beat. Whereas, nobody came to help him. The Luger officially joined the Dungeon of Doom. I'm like, you guys dragged that out way too much.
To be
But I was
fair,
a fan
though,
of the Giant.
them using the story of the Giant, Big Show as Andre's son. I mean, that was believable because he was.
It was.
So
And that match was better than WrestleMania 3.
Without the internet back then,
there you go, the non-internet era.
Yeah, if you go back,
fair.
Without the internet back then, when they presented him as this is Andre's kid, you look at him like, oh yeah, for sure.
Because
Hogan
is trying to run his greatest hits in WCW.
Yeah,
Renegade was Warrior. Andre, Big Show, the Giant was on.
They were recycling old WWF story.
Mega Powers versus the Dungeon of Doom.
Let's bring the Avalanche in.
Let's talk about one of the biggest fumbles. I think was kind of really the death and downfall of WCW. The Sting and Hulk Hogan Starrcade storyline that was
97.
Built for a year, was one of the most incredible story builds they ever had, only to screw up the entire match and the concept of the finish and everything.
Yeah, first of all, that entire pay-per-view is just not good, other than Benoit and Saturn and the first match, Guerrero Malenko. Again,
and DDP in Henning.
DDP Kurt Hennig, that was decent. But like they had, it's because again, remember Rey Mysterio, Harlem Heat, Chris Jericho, and Scott Hall did not have a match. Randy Savage was originally not even going to have a match. It was he replaced Conan, and they had all those guys in the freaking stands, or Scott Hall was someone's manager. Instead, they had on pay-per-view Larry Sabisco versus Eric Bischoff for 12 minutes. For 12 goddamn minutes.
With Bret Hart as the referee.
And that's the first thing they did with Bret Hart. They bring him into WCW, a special guest referee between two guys who can't wrestle. What is going on? 12 minutes of just crappy spin kicks. Oh my God, I hate that match.
I feel like Larry Sabisco could have came out of the 90s a little bit better. He had a great feud with Stone Cold and the WWF and The Rock. Just
he was legend by 93. Like,
living legend versus legend.
He had a good. I'll give him this. Yeah. His matches with Steven Regal '92 for the World Television.
Those are good. I would say.
Let me.
I forgot about the Dangerous Alliance in the early 90s.
Let me get Alan and Justin's perspective because you guys saw it in real time. So talk about the build for you, how invested you were, and then what you felt after the aftermath.
Go ahead, Alan. You go first because you're a little bit older than me, right?
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 33.
I'm 35. But okay.
Okay, so because I was a little young at the time, but go ahead.
Yeah. It was so disappointing because I go back to when the whole thing started, when Sting purposely turned his back, went at the mic, had the mic in his hand and turned his back to the camera that he's supposed to face at and walks off. And then next thing we know, we see this crow and then it's building up. And then we don't know because he's kind of first he's beating up WCW wrestlers, but then he's beating up NWO guys. Then Uncensored happens, and then he beats up the entire NWO after the Uncensored match with the Horsemen in WCW. And then the build, and then he beats up Eric Bischoff. He actually gets Hogan. Like, there's the hype. There's the hype. There's the hype. Like, one of the most gangster things I've ever seen was when J.J. Dillon, who was the president at the time, is asking him, hey, what do you want? And he points to a sign, Sting versus Hogan. And it's like, yes, this is what we want. Contract signing. Barely even looked at the contract when he signed it because he's got his eyes on Hogan. It's the biggest build. We're like, this is what's going to bring WCW into 98. And then we got what we got. It was just like you're rooting for your favorite team. You think your favorite team is about to do so well, and then they absolutely just shit the bed. Like, that's what that was to me. And it's one of the biggest fumbles. I think it's WCW's biggest fumble by far, in my opinion. To see how much hype that there was for this match, how they built it, how Eric Bischoff, who was smart enough to be like, let's not put Sting on TV as much. Less is more. Let's build up to this. Starrcade is our WrestleMania.
Outsold it.
Yeah.
I thought the
got what we
build-up was
got.
fantastic. I thought the build-up was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I was a kid. I was a little Stinger. I liked Surfer Sting. I liked when he turned to the Crow. I was there for the whole thing. Him coming out. The last time we heard him talk was when they tried to get him in the NWO, and he's like, the only thing that's for sure about Sting is nothing's for sure.
For sure.
And then he walked out, and you had half the Crow face paint. It wasn't fully there. Like, the whole build-up was great. I had like a birthday party when I was a kid. Everyone got Sting face paint done. Like, I was all for it. Once again, it goes back to like what I talked about earlier. As a kid, I didn't care. I was just happy that Sting won the title. I didn't look at the whole, hey, this whole trying to work the screw job thing into this thing and not letting Hogan just lose clean. Like, as a kid, I didn't care. Sting won the belt. That was the coolest thing to me. Growing up and watching it back, the execution of it all, like, pretty bad. Like, he should have just straight up won. You know, the whole show did suck. The rest of the show was pretty mediocre. They were banking on the main event. It was one of those shows where it was like the main event was the main deal. Everything else was just like filler at this point, right? Which honestly wasn't usual for WCW in 97 because like a lot of their undercard was better than the main event in 97, 98.
Yeah. Halloween Havoc, Halloween Havoc, great show except the main event. Like,
so this is one of the rare occasions where the main event was the sell and everything under it was kind of whatever. Looking back at it as an adult, now that sees wrestling differently, like the execution was horrible. As a kid, I was just happy Sting won. I was happy like Hogan was just thrown by Sting and the lifting him. It wasn't a count out Lex Luger situation. Like he actually beat him. Bret Hart's here. I'm a big Bret Hart fan. Like, you know, like all of that was cool to me. But they did Sting dirty. He should have won clean. He should have walked. He should have won definitively. He should have walked out strong. I'm not saying it had to be a Brock Lesnar Goldberg squash situation, but I mean like it just needed to be like Sting beat Hogan, boom, that's it, right? But that wasn't the case. And then we got all the screwery after of this title being vacated, then there being a rematch, and then, you know, not even like 4 months later, Savage beats Sting, which obviously, like, I love Savage, shows hype, but also, like, looking back, that probably shouldn't have been the situation. Like,
Hogan won, right?
And I think that's the story of WCW. They had really great stories that had really bad endings. Like the Wolfpack NWO split was dope, but there was no conclusion to it besides them just getting back together. The Sting thing was dope, but the conclusion sucked. Honestly, haters are going to hate, but I was kind of down with the whole Millionaires Club versus the New Blood. But there was no conclusion.
Again, no conclusion because
rap is crap.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that was good in WCW that just didn't have even little minor things like Jericho trying to fight Goldberg. We never got Jericho versus Goldberg.
Yeah.
And what made it even worse, that was December. Yeah. 1 month later, Stone Cold Steve Austin wins the 1998 Royal.
Yeah,
that's it.
The writing was on the wall.
And Tyson's coming in.
And then Tyson comes in.
The greatest two stories that had a conclusion but then had to be continued was the story of the formation of the NWO and the Third Man. That will always be iconic. And then the story of Bill Goldberg. Him beating Scott Hall and Hulk Hogan on that one night and winning both titles in the Georgia Dome. That was a great conclusion.
Iconic.
But for the most part, none of their great stories had great conclusions.
Yeah. For instance, Goldberg's story. Yeah, Kevin Nash beats him with stun gun.
Yeah. That was after though, right? Like the NWO thing initially was great, and then after got screwed over. The Goldberg thing initially was great, then after got screwed over. The Sting build up and him turning into the Crow was great, then after got screwed over. So it's like, you know.
And the thing about the Goldberg losing is, here's the thing, that even though, again, Starrcade 98, not the greatest show, and Goldberg losing his streak to that is like whatever. The thing that really killed WCW was that Kevin Nash winning, not actually a bad choice. He was super popular. He was like super duper over. 8 days later, finger poke of doom.
Finger point of doom. I was about to bring that up,
bro. That's really that was the end.
Bring in, and then Goldberg hurting himself by actually punching the limo, so he was off TV. The NWO just getting back together. Then you have to question, like, was NWO 2000
DDP,
that bad, or did Bret just get hurt? Sting turning heel was the weirdest thing ever.
Oh man, my grandmother got me into wrestling, and my grandmother called me like, "Oh my goodness, Fall Brawl '99." I was like, "Whoa!" He hit him with the bat.
Like, you know, looking back, there's a lot of things that, like, as a kid, I didn't mind, but like Sting joining the Wolfpack, a little weird. Savage just joining the NWO after getting beat up for like 8 months and being like, "Whatever, I get Elizabeth, I'm just gonna join." There's a lot of questionable things. Hogan ending the Wolfpack because he thought it was cooler than his NWO, which it was.
What they should have did with Savage, I liked how they started that, him getting in the NWO. What they should have did was make it where I'm just trying to infiltrate so I can take Hogan's spot.
He should have screwed over Hogan with Sting at the end to be like, this is a plan all along.
All along.
Yeah.
He did screw him over at Fall Brawl, or not Fall Brawl, Super Brawl, but that was different. Yeah.
That's a whole different episode, but Hogan holding down Savage will always be a problem.
Oh,
all 4 Savage's world title reigns.
Hogan and Flair.
By Hogan.
Disrespectful.
Hogan and
Disrespectful.
Flair. It was always Hogan and Flair.
Disrespectful.
Never lost to anybody else.
Hogan and Flair.
All right, so to end off the show, we're gonna do a little 90s mini draft. So everybody is gonna pick 5 superstars from the 90s, see who can pick the best overall 90s roster, and we'll just go in order from me to Justin to James to Alan. So everybody will pick 1 each time individually until we have 5 total. So I'll go first, and like I said, Justin go second, then James, and then Alan, and then we'll just keep.
We're picking our War Games teams. It's gonna be like War Games 98. Four teams.
So it would be like a War Games match, a 5-on-5. So for the first pick for me, I feel like it's only right for me to take Stone Cold. So I have to take Steve Austin.
Damn, that was gonna be my first pick. I really don't want to screw over Alan because I know where he's gonna go with this. So I'll let you keep him. It's hard. So I was gonna take Austin. Just my other. I'll take Savage to start off. Why not?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, you're the wild card. I don't know who you're gonna pick first.
Give me Brett.
Oh, you screwed over Alan. I was trying to not screw him over.
Okay, it's okay. I'll take HBK then.
I'll take The Rock.
Okay, so you took Sean, you took Brett, you took Austin. Damn, I need a workhorse. Well, Savage is a workhorse, but he's older. Damn. You took Austin and The Rock. Look at this guy. He's just building the attitude era. I'll take Taker.
Ooh.
Good one.
Sting.
Damn.
That was going to be my next one, too.
That was going to be my next thing.
We're in the guy's shirt.
Say, all right. Okay. Next pick.
I forgot about Sting for a second, too. That was so dumb of me.
Things are going. That's a good one.
But
I will take Vader.
Give me Mick Foley.
That was my next one. This sucks. I have Taker and Savage, right?
Tough choices.
We barely talked about him, but he's from the 90s, and I need someone like him. I'm taking Rob Van Dam.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero's a good one. It's a good sneak right there.
I feel like we need a graphic of this later of all of our finds, right?
There will be a graphic. I got Austin. I got Rock. I got Foley.
Get built. This guy's pick a WCW guy, you WWF guy. It's funny because Austin and Foley were both in WCW too, and in the 90s.
Yeah, literally. Cactus Jack vs. Vader Halloween Havoc Classic. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go in. I want to be a little.
I would have picked Brad. I would have picked Sting. I would have picked.
I want to be. I
would have picked Austin.
I want to be a little different here. That's a good one. Can't go bad with that one either. I just got to narrow down. Now I got to pick and choose on who I want to sacrifice here. Somebody has to be sacrificed at the end of the day. I'm going to pick for character arc because I got Mick Foley, I got Austin, I got Rock. Adds more. I'm going to take Raven.
Just because I still rock with him till this day, but he was a favorite of mine when I was a kid. I'm going to take Scott Hall. I go 4.
Oh, is it my turn? Hogan.
Yeah, you know what?
And it's funny you picked him. I'm gonna pick somebody that I don't even think we've talked about tonight. I might have mentioned him once. Give me Psycho Sid.
Oh, Psycho Sid.
Cam's favorite wrestler.
Last pick for everybody. To get down to the nitty gritty, I got Stone Cold, I got The Rock, I got Mick Foley, I got Raven. My last pick, just to make it interesting, let's see. Because I'm trying to match it up with the styles that I got, so people that I feel like could mesh well and have some pretty good matches.
RVD is my wild card. The rest of the guys are just like
RVD's a good one. RVD's a good one. He's somebody who's definitely different.
He's my wild card. I have Savage, Taker, and
you know what? I know
Scott Hall.
My last pick, somebody who can work good, have good character work, cut promos. I'm gonna take Chris Jericho.
I'm gonna take another OG. Should I? Damn. Yeah. There's 3 names in my head right now. One's a great wrestler, one's iconic, and the other one's just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna go with my heart of who I really liked at one point. And it's crazy because he doesn't even rank higher than the other guy in my 3 right now. But just for like, I mean, we already have Savage, but just for unpredictability, even more unpredictability on my team, and just wildness, I'm gonna take Roddy Piper.
Okay.
But the other options were Owen Hart and Ric Flair, but I'm just gonna go with Piper.
Fuck it, I'll go Flair.
I love Piper in the 90s.
And since I couldn't get Brett, I'll take Owen.
I was gonna say Ray, but I'm like, nah, I gotta get Flair.
Ray wouldn't have been a bad choice.
We saw Savage, Taker, RVD, Scott Hall, and Roddy Piper. What a random ass team.
I got Brett, Sting, Hogan, Flair, and DDP.
Different than
I just have WCW.
There's difference of uniqueness, and there's different names we could have thrown out there. I thought about Taz. Taz came to my mind.
Yeah,
I did like Taz a lot in ECW. Obviously, like Tommy Dreamer, Psychosis, Rey Mysterio.
I thought about Pillman. Pillman crossed my mind.
Yeah,
because I love loose cannon Pillman.
Brian Pillman is a really good one as well. Goldberg, I thought about him because of what he meant to WCW and his impact. So there's a lot of names you could throw out there.
But out of people that was stolen from me, Austin, Sting, and Brett. Those are 3 that would have.
Sorry.
You could have said Brett. You had him right there.
I know, but I was trying to do Alan Assault, and I love Savage too. So they're like 1A and 1B for me.
1B, yeah.
I'll just take
they're the same weight. It's fine.
Yeah.
If you had to take just to make it fun, if you had to take one bad gimmick on your roster, just one gimmick that that's bad that you just want to have, who are you gonna take?
Duke the Dumpster Drosy.
I mean, I would say Repo Man, but Repo Man is the greatest wrestler of all time. So.
Oh my god, bro!
Somebody
cut this man Mike off.
Barry Darcy's a good worker, bro. Okay, he was tag team champion for 480 days. You better respect him.
One bad gimmick, eh?
I think I said mine earlier. I'm gonna say Mortis, bro.
Was it bad though?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but it's a good bad.
I think that was like the beauty of WCW is that you had the top of the card, then you had this little weird Mortal Kombat feud, then you had the cruiserweights. It was a variety show.
Wait, I'm gonna change my answer. I'm actually gonna go Waylon Mercy.
Oh,
I think that was a worse gimmick than Duke the Dumpster.
No, yeah, you're right.
It could have worked. Different era.
You know what? I liked you. I love Mike Awesome. They did him dirty, but that 70s guy, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I like that 70s guy. That shit is funny.
I'm trying to think of a bad gimmick that I'd take.
I mean, you got Mantor. You got the Goon. I mean, there's a lot of ones you could put out there.
If I had Brett, I'd take the Goon. And
Bastion Booger, Friar Ferguson.
What was the Jean Pierre Lafitte?
He was good though.
I guess so.
John Paul.
Who you taking, Malik?
Hunter Hearst.
Hunter Hearst is all right.
No, I'm talking about John Paul Levesque, WCW.
No, wait. Terrorizing. We forgot Terrorizing.
Terrorizing, yeah.
What was the one? What was the Colonel in WCW? What was it?
Colonel Parker, wasn't he?
Parker.
No, the other one. Pipkins. You know him. He was a black guy. Had
You know what? I would take Farouk Assad in that gladiator gear.
Oh God. Oh God. I remember that.
Maybe I would take Ahmed Johnson. Why not? I like
Ahmed Johnson. Good old Ahmed Johnson, man. All right, fellas. Well, we're going to go ahead and hop off. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, Narcolepsy Boy 94, and also the No Name Wrestling Podcast. Appreciate you guys for coming on, talking everything through the 90s. Some good and bad, some gimmicks, some things that we liked, we didn't like. Make sure you guys go follow the Wrestling Classic. Make sure you guys go check out Petty Endo, check out James Weezer, check out all their social media, show love, and the wrestling community. Continuing to grow. Make sure you guys subscribe to the pod to be in tune for next week's episode. Hopefully, we have more people on the pod here, so I do apologize today for the lack of people not being here on the pod today, but everybody's got their own individual stuff going on. So we're going to make it work out for y'all, man. Once again, make sure you guys subscribe to the pod. Justin, Alan, Sebastian, man, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
And greatest
Thanks for having me on.